That's right, you read the title. Today I'm going to be reviewing every single episode of Rick and Morty and ranking them from worst to best. With only 7 seasons and 71 episodes in total, this will be an easy ranking to get through, right? This will be an easy ranking to get through, right? Premiering on Adult Swim on December 2nd of 2013, Rick and Morty is a show created by Dan Harmon and Justin Misconduct. Based on an animated Back to the Future parody skit the latter worked on for a short film festival held by the former. The series follows the 2 titular characters, Rick Sanchez and Morty Smith, going on the wackiest of sci-fi adventures that go in directions you wouldn't expect an adult animated sitcom to go at that time, all while the rest of their family, parents Beth and Jerry and teenage daughter Summer, go through their own struggles back at home. One aspect of the show that stands out to me is the comedy. It's very improv based. The regular dialogue is obviously written, but sometimes Justin takes the mic and goes all out, saying the most random shit he can come up with. And in my opinion, that style of humor has its charm. Rick and Morty was a massive success for Adult Swim. It became their most popular show for a while, even being called the smartest show on television at one point. And it even spawned the most clinically insane of fan bases. It's so successful that at this point we're barely halfway through the amount of seasons planned, as this series has been renewed through season 12, with season 8 releasing this year. Hopefully this ranking comes out before that season drops, or else this would immediately be outdated. As for my history with Rick and Morty, I have not seen most of it. My first exposure to the show was through the Simpsons couch gag. That immediately says it all right there. I have seen a few episodes. The series is a favorite of my older brothers after all, but not enough to entice me to check the series out until now. The common perception of Rick and Morty is that the show was only good in its first 2 seasons and dropped off once it started becoming, quote, too meta for its own good. When a new season drops, barely anyone cares. At this point, Smiling Friends has surpassed this show in terms of popularity, but where does it leave Rick and Morty today? With 71 episodes and about 50 more on the way, there must be some reason, other than money obviously, to warrant this amount of episodes and even a spin-off quote-unquote anime, right? By the way, no, I am not watching this MS Paint looking ass anime for this video, I actively refuse. Enough stalling, I think you get the gist. I'm going in almost completely blind, so wish me luck. This is every Rick and Morty episode reviewed and ranked. Let's go! Right out of the gate, the opening scene immediately shows the style of humor the series has in store, with Rick, clearly being blackout drunk, taking Morty to his flying car to tell him he's got a bomb to wipe out humanity. Morty is obviously terrified of this, and the 2 of them fight before stopping the car. To end off this madness, Rick very drunkenly tells them this was all a test for him to be more assertive, even though this is just a drunk shenanigan he felt like doing. Again, the tone for this entire show is set perfectly, slurring words and all. An amazing opener for what's otherwise an okay first episode. This takes place sometime after Rick first moves into the Smith house, with Morty having trouble staying up after last night's test. Rick's daughter Beth is willing to let it slide, while her husband Jerry immediately thinks he's being a bad influence on him. Later at school, Rick takes Morty on a trip to another dimension to find some mega seeds from a mega tree, all while the parents realize he hasn't been showing up to classes since Rick showed up. This one's got some really funny moments. Like, you'd expect this one bully to be a recurring character at Morty's school, but no, Rick just freezes him and he dies. That was pretty good. I also like when Rick describes a dimension where eternal youth is discovered and he's seen as a celebrity during his brief visit over there just because he's old. And of course Rick telling Morty to shove the seats way up his butt, especially afterwards when the dimension's equivalent of airport security tells Morty they're gonna check his ass.
Run, Morty! Run!
It immediately diverts to a fast-paced climax, which is the best part of the episode in my opinion.
Think about it!
The rest of the episode is pretty standard, honestly a little too standard for this show. Like, ruh-roh, Raggy, is Rick actually gonna be sent to a retirement home forever? Then Rick asks Morty what the square root of pi is, and boom, problem solved. Wonderful. It's not an awful way to end the episode. It makes sense. It just kind of felt like a quick and easy solution they had to make because we got over 100 more adventures to go on for the next few decades. Rick and Morty, 100 years, Morty. It's almost like they wanted the normal plot out of the way in the pilot just so they could do whatever the fuck they want after that.
Oh, look, honey, it's our son with Albert Eindouche.
What?
I'm an angry father, not an improviser.
Still, I enjoyed this episode fine enough story-wise. At least the jokes were good. Rick's speech at the end was just completely nuts, but again, that's how Justin's brain works. It gets a pass. It's going at the top of the list for now. Obviously, we're only one in, but I imagine this would be topped immediately. First episode got topped immediately. This episode is amazing. It honestly makes a better first episode than the actual first episode. Rick takes Morty to his math teacher's house so they can go inside his dreams to give him the idea to give Morty all A's from now on. While in the B plot, another invention of Rick's makes Morty's pet dog Snuffles, more intelligent, leading to him taking over the house and eventually the human race. Both of these concepts are crazy enough, but the execution takes them even further. The A-plot is one big Inception parody, with Rick and Morty jumping from dream to dream, each with increasingly crazier results. There's even a sex dungeon at one point, just because.
Whoa! Summer?
Let me just add this counter. We're definitely gonna need it. The plot suddenly changes to a Nightmare on Elm Street parody with a legally safe knockoff of Freddy Krueger named Scary Terry, who has swords for fingers instead of knives. He says bitch after almost every sentence, and I don't mind it. That's a funny bit. I love this entire sequence. The backgrounds of the scary town look ominous and well illustrated. I also like Scary Terry's house, which is just a regular fucking house. That's just brilliant. The way Terry changes his ways is a surprisingly nice moment. His dream is just being back at school and he forgets his pants. The way Rick and Morty call themselves his homies, while still funny, is also really charming. I just like it. V-plot is the slower of the two, but it's still really solid, with Snuffles slowly learning more and more about humans and how they treat dogs. Which leads to this ominous yet still hilarious scene between him and Summer in her bedroom.
Where are my testicles, Summer? They were removed. Where have they gone?
After the previous episode, you'd expect Rick and Morty to quickly resolve everything once they'd returned from their dream escapades, but no, the dogs take over the world and Morty is the only human spared. A year passes, at least that's what Morty thinks, but it turns out that plot twist, him and Rick are actually in Snuffles' dream the whole time. Rick even elaborately describes how Morty shit his pants before falling asleep.
Take these. Are these pills supposed to wake me up or something?
Close. It's gonna make your kidneys shut down.
What?
After Snowball wakes up, he realizes how important human lives are and decides to send his dog army to another world they can rule instead. Overall, I thought Lawnmower Dog was fantastic. It was in line with exactly what I'd expect from the show. Both plots were really well executed. It's going above the last. Christmas special already, wow. Jerry's parents are coming over for the holidays, and he's annoyed that everyone else in his family is on their damn phones and thus takes them away from the day.
Dad, I'm not giving you my phone.
Put it in the stocking, Summer, or I'm joining Facebook.
As for Rick, he brings in a random homeless man, in which it turns out he's full of diseases. And so, as foretold in every cartoon ever made, he shrinks Morty down and sends him inside the hobo's body to save his life. It turns out, though, that the body is home to an amusement park known as Anatomy Park, obviously a play on Jurassic Park, where he meets the park staff before they're all being chased by the diseases that escaped captivity. While the B plot is mostly kind of generic, with this new guy stealing all of Jerry's thunder and thus he regrets taking away the electronics, the A plot is really exciting. The mission ends up being a failure with the homeless man dying, and so now they have to escape before his body decays. Rick does have a quick solution to help Morty escape. Grow the body to ginormous size and have him float in space, and then detonate it. I forgot to mention that Morty grows a relationship with one of the staff members named Annie, and while it's kinda cute, I didn't really care that much about her. She barely has a character. Her first conversation with Morty being about his age kinda says the whole thing right there. In the end, Rick decides to shrink her down so she could help build a new anatomy park inside another body, which honestly good. Sucks for Morty, I guess, but I just didn't care for her. The humor is still really solid. I especially like Rip and Morty. The humor is still really solid. I especially like Rick's obsession with his own ride, Pirates of the Pancreas, which everyone else thinks it's shit. It only takes until the post-credits scene for him to realize it's shit too. Despite its generic B-plot, Anatomy Park was pretty good overall. It's going in between the previous two. Also, one of the characters is voiced by Dana Carvey, star of the greatest movie ever made, Master of Disguise. That's epic.
Listen to me, Morty. Get your clothes off and get in the shower right now, Morty. You gotta trust me, Morty.
I fucking love M. Night Shyamalan. It's a mindfuck in the best way possible. It starts off kind of odd. At first you'd probably expect the whole episode to be a meta spoof on M. Night Shyamalan movies, with its hokey acting and overly specific dialogue. But once it gets to the twist, which is pretty quick thankfully, it gets good. Like, really good. Turns out that Rick and Morty are stuck in a simulation on an alien ship. The reason why they decided to strip naked is because the aliens hate nudity and avert their eyes every time they see dick and balls. Also, somehow, Jerry is trapped in the simulation too, and so they try convincing him that this is still the real world as well by playing human music, which is just 3 notes playing over and over.
Human music. I like it.
And simulate his ad pitch by having everyone else be quickly won over by it. I just love Jerry's side plot in general. This is the funniest the show has been so far. The mailman constantly shouting, "My man!" The ad executive snapping his fingers and saying yes as a response to all of Jerry's questions. Even when he has sex with fake Beth, who is literally as still as a sex doll while the simulation is malfunctioning. He thought it was the best sex he's ever had. This episode is comedic gold. Same goes for the main plot too, but in an existentially confusing way. The way Rick makes the simulation malfunction is so funny, posing as a rap duo with Morty as he gives the most specific of groups of people, the most specific of actions before the entire simulation just freezes. The chase scenes are both exciting and very well animated, seeing more of how the aliens work the simulation in the background of each chase. Things are going great for Rick and Morty as they escape back to Earth, except nope. Turns out they're in a simulation within a simulation. It gets even more mindfucky when it turns out Morty was also a simulation the whole time. And they were also in a simulation of a simulation inside another simulation. And putting those specific words in that order and still making it somewhat cohesive is so insane that it just works. I forgot to mention that the aliens have captured Rick just so they can get his recipe to concentrated dark matter, but in the twist to end all twists, Rick gives the aliens a fake recipe that once concocted blows the entire alien ship up. What was the point of all this? Absolutely nothing, but I loved every second of it. Man, what a ride. Like I said in the beginning, this show goes in the craziest of directions. And while you probably see Simpsons or American Dad experiment like this on occasion nowadays, this is just a regular Tuesday for these characters. And this was airing over a decade ago. Just fantastic. I'm into this show already. M. Night Shyamalan gets the top spot, though I'm kind of hoping we didn't reach the show's peak too early and everything else is downhill from here. After experiencing one of the clips from the intro, Morty has had enough of Rick's insane adventures, so he makes a bet that he can lead the next one. But who cares about that? Look at Mr. Meeseeks! The subplot with the Meeseeks box makes this entire episode. It starts out normal with them helping Summer get popular and Beth to feel like a whole woman, but things get worse when Jerry struggles to get a stroke in golf. The Meeseeks can't leave until their task is fulfilled, so when Jerry just gives up, they start roping more of them into this to just try and help out, which naturally leads to all of them losing their sanity. Their voices can get a little grainy to some people, but I didn't mind them here. They were really entertaining. I don't want to dismiss the main plot either. That was also fun. It's basically a Jack and the Beanstalk parody for the first half, but it takes a turn once the giant trips, bashes his head on the table, and just dies. When Rick and Morty get arrested and go to giant court, it's stupid, but it's just funny. Their surprise attorney saying they are free fi to fo home. It's a dumb line, but I love it. It gets a little less interesting when they're in a pub inside one of the giant courthouse steps, but I like the arc the two go through here. I mean, Morty wanting to go home was because of him almost being raped by this jelly bean guy who turns out to be the king of the village down below, but still, the exchanges between him and Rick were kinda sweet. Both plots had pretty satisfying conclusions, with the Meeseeks plot ending with Beth finally teaching Jerry the perfect golf swings as they all disappear. And it's one of the only genuinely nice moments between Beth and Jerry in this entire show. I think. There could be more, but I'll highlight more as I go on if I do remember. It even ends with Rick's first wubble-up-a-dub-dub. Awesome! I enjoyed Meeseeks and Destroy for the most part. It's going above Anatomy Park. Damn, we're 6 episodes in and the show just keeps topping itself. Rick Potion number 9 is amazing, probably one of the most unhinged episodes in television history. After Morty's crush, Jessica, declines his offer to go to the flu season and dance with him, he asks Rick to make some sort of love potion so she can love him back. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, I love how this entire ordeal just starts with Rick asking Morty to hand him a screwdriver and he just refuses. Things immediately de-escalate when Rick's concoction starts spreading everywhere like the flu. In fact, things are kinda terrifying here. When everyone surrounds Morty with their grotesquely big pupils while the band's slow, ominous love song towards him plays in the background, it's very off-putting. It gets even more scary when Rick's supposed antidotes turn him into praying mantises, and finally, Cronenberg monsters. Their designs are the perfect amount of terrifying and bizarre. It's so haunting yet excellent. Even during the apocalypse, Jerry becomes a shotgun-wielding badass, and he and Beth actually have a happy ending for once. Something we definitely won't see in this show going forward. So how do they resolve this, you may ask? Well, Rick and Morty go a different reality entirely. One where they fix the whole Cronenberg catastrophe, and they also die afterwards, because Rick screwed up too much. Like, literally screwed up with the screwdriver. It's great. The ending is so depressing, but it's so good, with Rick and Morty digging their own dead bodies a grave in the backyard, and Morty slowly walking inside, realizing his parents and sister are not the same he once knew anymore. It's so sad, but it's also goddamn beautiful. It does end on a comedic note in the post-credits, with Cronenberg Rick and Cronenberg Morty going through the Cronenberg dimension because they accidentally turned everyone in their own dimension into regular humans. I just love that. Rick Potion number 9 is going at the top of the ranking. I'll be kinda shocked if this ends up being topped by an even better episode somehow. It's an all-timer.
Rick, could you come with me, please? Quickly?
Okay, now if we hear squeaking, we intervene.
Interesting that we got our first cold open since the pilot. I thought that would be the only one since it's something you don't really see in cartoons anymore. Anyways, Raising Gazorb is the weakest episode so far. I didn't enjoy it as much as the rest. I just thought this was okay. Morty gets a sex bot from a space pawn shop, to which after going at it, the robot turns into a sphere and basically gives birth to Morty's son. Afterwards, Rick decides to track down the origin of this robot, a planet by the name of Gazorp. And also Summer is roped into this by accident. I just realized I barely mentioned Summer, but that's because so far she's the character with the least amount of screen time and plot relevance. Now, 7 episodes in, she's finally a player in the main plot, and it's revealed that Gazorp is a planet ruled entirely by females. Yep, sure haven't seen that shit done before in animation. Where are the men, you ask? Well, they're sent far away, as the male citizens of Gazorp are much more violent, as is the case with Morty's son, which I'll get to in a bit. There are some funny bits in the A-plot. There is the courtroom where the sentence for the worst hair is just the silent treatment. And I also like how the leader was about to describe the method of death to Rick. He immediately assumes being crushed by a boulder, but then she describes a completely different method of death just because she doesn't want to admit a man was right. Good jokes be damned, this main plot was still kinda lame, with the usual gender stereotype trites we've seen done to death in other cartoons. And Rick and Summer are eventually freed because Summer's stop was made by a man. Really had to make a completely different model sheet only for a lame conclusion to justify it. I do like the side plot with Morty and Morty Jr. more. It definitely has a better story and funnier gags, with Morty struggling to be a good father over the course of a few days, all while his son just wants to destroy Earth. Despite the insane premise, it did feel kinda real at times. Minus Jerry being an absolute dickhead. The conclusion was also kinda lame and random, with the creator of Marmaduke just suddenly appearing, saying he has a lot of homicidal urges and charges them into his comic strips, and just leaves. Morty Jr.'s autobiography was an amazing payoff though, that was great. Raising Gazorbasorb is going at the bottom of the list, but it wasn't a bad episode, it was just meh. Interdimensional Cable, hell yeah! I've been looking forward to this one ever since I started this binge. This episode is pretty much a flex of Justin Roiland's improv comedy, with the idea of infinite TV shows across infinite realities allowing him to run completely wild. And I'd say he succeeded really well. So many iconic moments. Ants in My Eyes Johnson, the action movie with two brothers and a really long name, Real Fake Doors, Baby Legs, Gazorpazorp Field, Gazorpazorp fucking Field? Come on, these are great. It gives me the same feeling as something like Road to the Multiverse from Family Guy. The possibilities for comedic alternate universes are endless, and for Rick and Morty, they delivered on their first attempt.
And now, another quick mystery.
It's a travesty.
I did. You see this knife and all the blood on it? Here's my fingerprints.
Guilty. I sentence you to life in prison.
This episode also has really compelling drama between the family? What? This is also what makes this episode special to me, with Beth and Jerry realizing they have it worse off in their current reality solely because of Summer. It's a genuinely heartbreaking reveal, with the differences between the good and the boring realities hindering on if Beth got an abortion or not. It's already crazy that this depressing reveal is in the same episode as Ball Fondlers and Shrunk People, but there's more. My favorite parts of this episode, yes, even in this comedic-centered episode, are the conclusions for both Summer and Beth and Jerry. Summer is planning on leaving the family after realizing she's a burden on everyone, but Morty reveals to her what happened 2 episodes ago, revealing that he's not her little brother anymore, but instead a version of him that she could trust to stay with. Not only are episode callbacks in a mostly episodic show awesome to me, but Morty's speech is even better. Just damn, I love it.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
Finally, there's the ending, with alternate universe Jerry on a low-speed chase from the police, just so he can be with Beth. Everyone's reactions are great, even Rick not giving a single shit. But the cherry on top of this masterpiece of an episode is seeing the two of them realize, with no dialogue and just their sad expressions, that they do have a good here after all, and they kiss. God damn, again, why is this in the same episode as the movie about the guy eating shit? Rick C. Minutes is fantastic. It's got stellar improv comedy with the wacky TV shows, and some of the most compelling drama in the entire show just going on in the background. It's the best of both worlds. This one, once again, gets the top spot. Although now I'm kind of worried if we've reached the show's peak 8 episodes in, but again, we'll see what happens.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Summer, finally starring in a main plot that doesn't suck, gets a job at a spooky antique shop with cursed items, led by the Devil, voiced by Alfred Molina. This annoys Rick as he starts driving customers away from the ironic twists. He makes a device that tells what superpower a cursed object gives as well as the curse that comes with it, and he even decides to make a business out of it. Meanwhile, Jerry is helping out with Morty's science project, to which they later argue on how Pluto isn't a planet. This, however, leads to them getting transported to Pluto themselves, where Jerry's insecurity and unwillingness to change his mind on Pluto being a planet makes him a celebrity over there, even as the planet is shrinking from the inside. I found this episode pretty solid for the most part. I like Rick's commercial for the business that he immediately shuts down after like 2 scenes because he was bored, the many different Pluto puns, and both plots had funny but nice little conclusions. The side plot has Jerry finally admitting Pluto isn't a planet and thus getting kicked out, leading to a nice talk with Morty, even though he was interrupted while jerking off. The main plot just ends with Rick and Summer becoming buff in a montage set to X Gon Give It To Ya and beating up the devil, which is very quick, but I don't mind it, it's still funny. Something Rick hit this way comes is another good one, going in the middle. What is it with these Rick puns in the titles lately? They're really obsessed with these. Hey look, it's the Gravity Falls reference. Cool. Rick and Morty, at least the ones in their current universe, are sent to the Citadel of Ricks, where they're being accused of killing multiple different Ricks and kidnapping their Mortys across different universes. It's later revealed that throughout the universes, all the Ricks use their Mortys for is to conceal their brainwaves from detection, essentially making their relationship worth so little. This is shown with the real killer's lair, which is covered on the outside by naked Mortys being barbarically tortured. The actual killer is revealed to be Evil Rick. Ooh. This was a great adventure. The concept of alternate universe versions of the main characters forming a council together is filled with as much potential as interdimensional Cable. I kinda wish they went farther with it, but I really enjoy what we've got here. I love Doofus Rick. The bond he forms with Jerry is hilarious, but kinda sweet too. I also love C-137 Morty, that's the name of their universe, I forgot to mention that, whoops. Seeing the rebellion of all the different Mortys in the prison. I fucking love Hammer Morty. In the end, the Mortiest of them all thing sounds kinda lame at first, but now I kinda see it as Rick pulling a conclusion out of his ass just so Morty can feel better. He just didn't care, so I get the attitude towards Morty's conflict. The actual ending is even better, with the reveal that Evil Rick has been controlled this whole time, leading to the epic reveal of Evil Morty. The music they play has become so popular because of this episode. It is played in so many memes. I can't wait for the disappointing follow-up episodes, those are gonna be fun! Closer Encounters of the Rick kind is going above M. Night Shyamalan's. I really enjoyed this one. Hoping season 1 doesn't end on a low note. Season 1 ended on a low note, what the hell? Rick and Summer throw a party at the house and drives Morty insane, while Beth and Jerry go on a Titanic experience where Jerry's having fun with this other lady who turns out is trying to rape him. That's pretty much as deep as both plots go. This is a big party episode and it knows it. I found the side plot more interesting than the main. Even though I haven't seen the full Titanic movie myself yet, I still know the references since they're usually just the ones everyone can immediately recognize. I like the twist near the end, and the performance of the Hispanic woman is really good, not only referencing Titanic a lot, but also Cape Fear at the end before immediately getting run over. The side plot was the highlight for me, while the main was just kinda dumb the whole way through. I couldn't help but feel bad for Morty here. It's not torture porn levels of torment. God, I sound insane to the average person, but it just makes me hate Rick, and even Summer to a lesser extent. Abe Rodolph Linkler was pretty funny, as are some of the other characters at the party. The ending montage with the 3 frozen in time is neat, but that's about it. Bird Person's speech saying that wubba lubba dub dub means I am in great pain, please help me is really dumb. Don't get me wrong, it's funny out of context, and I get the message it's going for, but this is like saying E by shorts actually means death to America. It's a catchphrase, it's not that deep. Don't have anything else to say, a sort of mediocre way to end the first season. It's still going above Raising Gazorbasaur because that episode had some more really dumb moments, but this is still just kinda to me.
Season 1! That's the end, motherfucker! I don't give a fuck is my new catchphrase! Fuck you! That's season 1! Boom! Season 1 up in your face, motherfucker! Yeah!
And that was season 1. Overall, a really solid start to the show. There were some below average episodes, including the finale, but most of the lineup here was amazing. I'm amazed this show is hitting consistent home runs already. I can see why this show became so popular out of the gate. I also see why each season took longer to come out earlier on, because production on these takes so goddamn long. Guess we're jumping forward 15 months to see what happens next. 1 down, 6 to go. If the later seasons are as bad as everyone says they are, then pray for me. A Wrinkle in Time takes place 6 months after last season's finale, with Rick, Morty, and Summer deciding to unfreeze time. However, there is a caveat. At first, they can't touch their parents or else they evaporate in time. This leaves Beth and Jerry to do their own subplot, which I'll get out of the way before diving into the main plot. To sum it up, they hit a deer, they take it to the vet where Beth decides to do surgery on it, a bunch of legal crap happens, and in another rare moment of unselfishness from Jerry, he allows her to finish in a pretty nice little montage. It's kinda cute that Tom Kenny and his wife Jill Talley played a hunter and a female vet respectively, but this is just fine and mostly there to fill the rest of the episode because the main plot obviously blew the budget a little. A scuffle between Morty and Summer causes the time rift to split into 2 realities and send into an empty timeless vortex with flying Schrodinger's cats outside. Split-screen multiplayer, LOL gamer humor. After setting aside their differences, however, Rick grows paranoid of his other reality self, thinking the other is gonna kill him, which then causes the timeline to split into 4. Things get even worse when a 4-dimensional being known as a testicle monster, love that design by the way, briefly fixes their time by having them put on time collars, before arresting them to be sentenced to time prison for what they did. It eventually turns into an all-out brawl when the timeline splits more and more as the multiple Ricks battle the multiple testicle monsters all at once, causing it to die. This episode peaks during the climax, where one of the Mortys falls through a hole in the garage as it breaks apart, and thus the Rick in that reality jumps down and gives Morty his own collar to save him. I love moments like this. No matter how much of an ass everyone is to each other, they are still family at the end of the day, and they stick out for each other. It's nice, and usually something most other adult animated comedies in the past decade forget even exists in favor of telling some of the worst jokes ever written. Obviously, Rick gets sent back too by finding Morty's collar falling as well. I love the cut from him being vengeful towards God to him in another reality praying. Perfect cut right there. And thus, reality is finally saved. This one is super creative. You probably expect them to repeat the exact same visuals across 2, 4, or even 32 realities at the end, but no. Each timeline is slightly different. Obviously, my OCD kinda hates how Morty and Summer are placed ever so differently half the time, but the extra details to make each reality different are a very nice touch. Also, Key and Peele play the testicle monsters in this episode, the other one only appearing in the post-credit scene. No matter how much you think Keegan-Michael Key is overused and played out, he does a really good performance as the main monster. I love his deliveries every time. Overall, A Wrinkle in Time is a very strong premiere and definitely makes up for the lackluster finale. The B-plot does slow down the pace and thus brings it down to the middle of the overall ranking so far, but this is still a stellar season opener. The Rick and Morty team are just that strong at experimentation. Hope that stays consistent for the rest of the show. Oh yeah, I guess I spoke too soon on Cold Omens because now, ever since I last mentioned it in episode 7, they're now at the start of every episode since. Cool. Finally, we have an episode title that isn't a Rick pun, though instead it's a Morty pun. This episode is an entire parody of the movie Midnight Run, and while I haven't seen it myself to fully get what they're going for, this honestly tops the previous in my opinion. There are a lot of iconic moments and funny gags here. I love the Jerry Barry side plot. It's basically a daycare center for all the different Jerrys across the multiverse as established in the Citadel of Rick's episode. And it's filled with funny gags like the Beth mascot costume, the back room with all the Jerrys that were left behind, the Jerrys trying to figure out how to plug in the aux cable into the TV or TVs, and even an appearance by Beth's new husband from a reality where she remarries. It sort of opens up the possibility that she and Jerry are going to divorce, which we'll get to eventually. The true highlight of this episode to me is how there's multiple iconic bits in this one episode that I recognize as the show is airing. I would never think Roy was in the same episode as Goodbye Moon Men, but here we are. The Roy sequence is amazing. Might be one of the best fake games in all of animation, where the player basically lives out an entire life of this guy named Roy. Time slows down in game, where each year passing is just seconds in real life. It's very existential, and the montage itself is so well done. I love it. I first heard of it while watching Jacksepticeye play the Rick and Morty VR game many years ago, where you're basically playing a shitty bootleg recreation of it entirely in VR, and God do I want to play it myself now that I'm a bit of a fan. As for Goodbye Moon Men, each of these sequences are the most beautifully animated drug trips ever. The song is sung by Jermaine Clement, yes, the voice of the crab who inspired the funny Crab Man, who also plays this space cloud who they named Get Ready to Laugh, Fart, Laugh Now, and the song itself is so ethereal and psychedelic, almost like you're being transported to another reality entirely. It's an amazing song. I'd list so many of this episode's moments all day. Blips and chits, the commercial after the credits, Rick's gruesomely badass stats with the portal gun and gearhead screwballs, any other scene of the Jerry Barry plot I forgot to mention, and who could forget The adventure itself is pretty standard, but it's entirely held up by the comedy, and it's very strong. Morning Night Run is going above the last, it's great. Patton Oswalt jump scare. Rick reunites with their old flame, Unity, which is a singular alien being controlling multiple human bodies all at once. I like this concept, and the extra detail that the person talking changes to the next person Rick is standing next to sell the bit. But this episode was just fine overall. It's a bit on the boring side, with Rick eventually wanting to stay with Unity while sending Morty and Summer back home, and the side plot being filled with the typical Beth and Jerry arguments. It just has this alien in the background all chained up in a secret dungeon under Rick's garage. There are some good moments like the alien lashing out at Beth and Jerry, the nipple-centric race war between the humans who were freed, and the ending. God damn, the ending is really good. The music, set to Rick realizing there's little purpose in his life now that he's alone again, done with no dialogue, is so sad but great. Any cartoon episode that ends with a somber music montage is at least an okay one in my book. Don't have much to say, even though autoerotic assimilation is going at the bottom, the main plot makes it all worth it in the end. Another Rick pun, yay! Remember Adult Swim's Too Many Cooks skit? Well, imagine that, but stretch it to 22 minutes. And also make it animated. This is an entire self-aware parody of crummy sitcoms, both how they would introduce many more wacky side characters as the show goes on, and how they would usually waste an episode slot on a clip show to save costs. The reason why this is happening is because a bunch of space parasites are invading the house, making all these fake characters and inserting fake memories into the family's brains to make them think that they existed the whole time. And I gotta say, for another episode that's entirely skit-based, it is amazing. This is in my top 3 so far. There's like a new gag every 5 to 10 seconds and a character is added every half minute. It's so fast paced. And it shows yet again that their more experimental comedic episodes are some of their best ever.
No! Shoot! Now look, it's like a Where's Waldo page. Can you find me? Check out all these zany characters. We'll be right back after these messages.
There's a lot of iconic characters here. Mr. Beauregard, Sleepy Gary, Photography Raptor, Penn Sylvester, Ghost in a Jar, Reverse Giraffe, and Tingles. Oh fuck! I love that the Rick and Morty wiki page for this episode shows the names of all the new characters, and then the deaths column is just the exact same list again, but rearranged, and also with many unnamed alien parasites at the bottom. I love this as much as I love the casual 3DS references.
You guys, we gotta hurry. I just got back from Walmart. They're selling Nintendo 3DS systems for $149.99 on sale. They're all limited edition Zelda ones. And we also all get to keep one and we can play Nintendo games. Nintendo, give me free stuff.
Video game references and cartoons are my kryptonite. You know what this episode also introduces? My main man, Mr. Poopy Butthole, the legend himself. He's been a friend of the family ever since the start of the show. He's got the best moments like... and even... Obviously, he was introduced in this one episode to sell the main joke, as his existence is based on Season 5 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where this one character named Dawn Summers is randomly introduced out of nowhere, and everyone else doesn't bat an eye. They treat her as if she was here the whole time. I do know he becomes a recurring character from this point on, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. Yes, especially so after he was shot by Beth. This episode is a classic, no doubt about it. I even forgot to mention Rick's different catchphrases, all the background characters, and the montage of bad memories between Rick and Morty set to slow music. I loved that especially. They even made a card game based on this episode, and I'm not even shocked considering the amount of characters in it. This is going at the top of the Season 2 list so far. It is a banger. Show me what you got! Get Swifty immediately starts with shit going down, with a giant floating alien head invading Earth just to tell them, well, you know what. Rick and Morty come to help as they try to come in peace with the head by playing an amazing song. But it turns out that specifically Pharrell, Billy Corgan, Randy Newman, and The Dream have all died, and thus rely on Rick and Morty for their big song. And so we have, what else, the title of the episode. I remember the Get Swifty song. It's so offbeat yet iconic. And I thought this episode would start to fall off after that, but no, it keeps getting interesting. It turns out the head is out recruiting different planets from across the universe and pitting them against each other in an American Idol style singing competition, where whichever planet loses gets obliterated. So it's kind of like that Jimmy Neutron special, but with less to know. Now Rick and Morty, with the help of Ice-T, have to come up with another song or else they're all dead. Meanwhile, the rest of the family's town, I'm not going to look up the name if it even has one, is all caught up in a new religious cult who believes in the giant heads, and that plot is just fine. Summer especially is very much believing in the heads. I like her overreaction to calling Jerry silly, and this is also one of the rare moments of Beth and Jerry actually being a good couple. They almost get ballooned away because of this, but the gesture's still nice. I do like Morty's side of the story a little more. I like the visuals of the different worlds Morty visits on his portal jumping journey back home, and he eventually comes across Bird Person, and honestly, the best appearance of him so far. He's got a really good message telling Morty to have trust in Rick as much as he himself did, looking back on all the photos of him and Rick on his wall, and to not leave him behind when the world is in danger. He also has really good deadpan delivery as well.
What am I eating? What is this, bird seed?
It is random debris. I found it in my carpet. I don't know what humans eat.
The cherry on top of all this is Ice-T revealing he was exiled from a planet of talking letters, and he saves him from annihilation at the last second. Then later in the post-credits, he turns back into Water Tea and gets ready to fight the Numbericons. I love that bit. Oh, the planet is saved, by the way. Get Swifty is another really solid one, with catchy songs, good character writing, and the jokes mostly hitting as usual. It's going under the last. Nathan Fielder guest stars in this one. That's pretty cool. I just started getting into Nathan For You recently, so this is great timing. Stephen Colbert also guest stars. That isn't pretty cool. The Ricks Must Be Crazy is fine. It's another that's on the slow side, but at least it's got some good aspects to it. The highlight for me is the B-plot with Summer in the flying car, keeping her safe by doing progressively more insane things. And the resolution is just an alliance between the government and the spider people. It's so tense from start to finish, it's great. The A-plot isn't as good in my opinion. Rick's got an entire smaller universe enslaved just to power his own car, where inside another scientist has made another even smaller universe for a power source, and another one inside of that. Abstract concept aside, I was kinda bored most of the time. The smaller universes look pretty cool visually, but I just wish we got to see a little more of them. Unlike Lawnmower Dog, where each dream is given the perfect amount of screen time, it feels like we're tossed into the Teenyverse a little too quick after being introduced to the Miniverse. But the names being more and more shit on purpose as the worlds get smaller is a good bit. It still feels like we're stuck meandering in the Teenyverse for half the episode, with Rick and the Microverse scientists arguing a lot of the time, and it gets kinda old. It does pick up with the ending chase though, I do like that. My absolute favorite comedic bit here has to be Morty turning into a car. You'd think that would just be a random wacky improvised bit that Justin snuck into the script, but no. The post-credits actually has Morty turning into a car. I love his goofy-ass car design so much, it's amazing. That, however, doesn't save this episode from being pretty meh by this season's standards. The B-plot is strong even if it's confined to just one location, while the A-plot goes all over the place, but it could have been better. It's going at the bottom of the list, but to clarify, I have not seen an episode that's straight up bad so far. I hope that stays true, because if not, then I better appreciate this while it lasts. An influx of vampires has been invading the school, though mostly off-screen. I love how this is treated as a matter-of-fact thing. Morty is so nonchalant here. To help solve this issue, Rick decides to turn into a clone of his teenage self, to which he names himself Tiny Rick. I love Tiny Rick's design. It's literally just old Rick, but smaller and with a smoother face. And also he says, "I'm Tiny Rick," at the end of every other sentence. Tiny Rick is a Chad. I love how he drops hints that he's trapped in this body and his older self is is dying in a tube mainly through song. It is kind of out of character for Morty to be unassuming to the whole thing. Instead, Summer is the more concerned one. I mean, he is after Jessica as usual for him to even care, and his get your shit together speech is great. But it's still kind of weird that the normally straight man is just fine with Rick being in pain. At a dumb, everyone turns on member of the main cast turnaround, Tiny Rick's quips getting a little stale after a while, and the fact that the vampires don't actually appear until the post-credits, and this main plot is average overall. Somehow, the better of the two plots is the Beth and Jerry side plot, and the infuriatingly mundane plot is instantly made better when things go from 0 to 100, and this is no exception. It starts with the usual Beth and Jerry arguments that slow things down to a crawl, but it gets better once it turns into an alien parody with Jerry's vision of Beth terrorizing the marriage counseling planet. But then Jerry comes along saving the day, which makes Beth's once slimy versions of him becoming super muscular.
I'm here to save you, or my name isn't Jerry Smith.
Aha! Yes, Jerry Smith.
Okay, fair enough.
That was good. Overall, I thought Big Trouble in Little Sanchez was pretty solid. I'm putting this above autoerotic assimilation. I will never forget you, Tiny Rick. You were a legend that died too soon, just like Elliott Smith. Interdimensional Cable 2, baby! I'm excited to see more of the unhinged improv masters at work and hopefully get another emotional conflict in return. Let's see what they got.
20 minutes later.
That was a bit of a letdown. I don't know if Justin was in an improv slump or what, because this is inferior to the first in nearly every way. I'll get the B story out of the way first. Now, I'm not expecting every Interdimensional Cable episode to have an emotional core to it all. Their main purpose is dumb improv comedy in the form of wacky TV shows. But after the near perfection that was the first entry, with Summer knowing Morty is not the same little brother she once knew, and Beth and Jerry suddenly realizing they have it good here after all, this sequel's main conflict is, will Jerry get to keep his penis? That's it. That's about as deep as this conflict goes. The other alien designs are cool, and Jerry's death scene is super well animated, but that's about it. It's just boring and very repetitive, and it slows the pacing down to a crawl, interrupting the flow of the fake TV show bits, which are also not as good. This episode did give us the Plumbus, Eyehole Man, How Did I Get Here?, Michael and Pickle Thompson's two different TV shows running at the same time, and the adventures of Steely, who just looks like Mr. Poopy Butthole with longer arms. But like the B-plot, the rest of these shows just sort of went in one ear and out the other, which is a very noticeable step down after last time. I still remember that gruesome Lucky Charms commercial parody back in Rick's Minutes, while I'm just gonna forget the stand-up bit and the personal space show until I somehow stumble across this episode again. Morty's out of nowhere rant is amazing, but that's about all I have to say. Interdimensional Cable 2, Tempting Fate, is an obvious step down from the last and one of the weaker episodes this season. It's still going above the Ricks Must Be Crazy because there's a bit more I got out of this, but it's still kinda disappointing. Lucas Bridging now is another solid one. I kinda wish the B-plot actually existed outside of just a few minimal scenes that don't amount to much, though the post-credits conclusion is really funny.
Jerry, get a job.
The A story is where this episode is at its most entertaining, with Rick and Morty stumbling across a random planet that does what's essentially their own version of The Purge once a year. Morty's attitude towards the whole thing is great. After their ship is stolen by some cat girl, that leaves him being less trusting of everyone else and has a lot of pent-up anger within him. I love him being brutally honest towards the guy in the lighthouse in the story he wrote, which leads to him killing the man.
You like that? You want me to cut to 3 weeks earlier when you were alive?
Also, the action sequences in this episode are great as well, super well animated and gruesome as usual. I don't have much else to say on this episode, just another solid adventure that I enjoyed from beginning to end. It's going around the middle. I do want to mention this though. It just set in that they constantly milk this one joke about Summer peeing her pants. This isn't even the first time they reference this. Like, what's the joke here? I thought that would have been introduced around like season 5, but no, they started making this unfunny gag recurring in this season. I could start up a Summer pee pants counter, but that would have caused me to go back to all the previous episodes trying to find all the other gags they did so far. And let's be honest, one counter, especially a counter like this, is enough. Let's move on to the finale, where I hope this isn't the last time shit gets good.
I
am not staring at you. I am a cyborg photographer. Just act natural.
Aaron Hansen? We end off the season with, honestly, a much better finale than season 1's, with the wedding squanchers. The Smith family are invited to Bird Person's wedding, to which he declines at first, thinking weddings are usually pretty lame. Until he's forced to go, as Jerry is accidentally taken all the way over there via intergalactic delivery. The first act at the wedding, while the weakest part, is still a pretty cozy setting and has some funny bits. Especially Jerry's awkward as hell wedding banter.
Imagine being pregnant with your daughter and a bird teenager comes into your home and says, "I'll take that. I'll have sex with that."
Give us 1 second.
Things go to shit when the bride, Tammy, reveals she's an agent of the Galactic Federation, deciding to place everyone under arrest. I was in shock when Bird Person got shot and died. It came out of nowhere and it was so well done. But I'm gonna facepalm if he's somehow revived in one of the upcoming episodes. If he does, that's gonna be strike 2 after the wubble-up-a-dub-dub shit. This leaves the family on the run from the Federation in a flying van, where now they have to find a new planet to live that's similar to Earth but is away from jurisdiction. This leaves them with 3 planets. One is entirely on a cob, which Rick is completely against, which is random and unexplained but still funny. One has the iconic screaming sun, and the last is a small world. Like literally a small world, so they lay low there. The rest of the family is caught off guard by Rick's insane idea, but with the fact that they're all gonna get arrested once they make it to Earth, his mind is already made up. It all leads to this stellar sequence from here to the ending, where Rick eavesdrops on the family's conversation under the house, in which Jerry says he wants to turn Rick in and go back home, and the rest of the family defend him, saying they want to stay with Rick because of their unconditional love towards him. Family always sticks together as per usual. But after hearing this, Rick decides to sacrifice himself for the safety of his own family. They get to live normal lives, at least normal on an Earth invaded entirely by aliens, while he is transported to another planet that is essentially a prison, ending the episode on a downer note. It's a really good ending, as well as the cliffhanger that I'm confused on how they're going to resolve it. I heard through the grapevine that the season 3 premiere starts out completely normal, like nothing has happened, so that leaves me questioning exactly how they'll follow up on it. Like, genuinely, I'm curious. The Wedding Squanchers is great, no doubt about it. Not only is it a more exciting season finale, but it's one of the best episodes in terms of showing off how strong these characters are in support of their own family. The music montages in this show are still amazing, at least as of right now. Please don't give me false hope, Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Tune in to Rick and Morty Season 3 in like a year and a half or longer to see how we unravel this mess. Ooh-wee!
And that was season 2. While season 1, in my opinion, is the better season with its higher highs, this season is also really solid and at least is more consistent in terms of quality. Season 1 has a more lower low so far, but the highs of that season still take the top 2 as of now. I still think there isn't a bad episode in this show currently, though sadly that might change with the next season. So, this season is where things go to shit, right? Considering season 3 is the season where its premiere starts off confusingly and aired on April Fool's Day, and this is also the season that has the infamous funniest shit I've ever seen, I do know for a fact that the show starts getting worse from this point on, but I hope there are still good episodes to be found. Let's pray that season 3 is the start of a slow downward spiral, rather than an instant drop off from here until the end of the show.
Come on, who wants to watch a mad scientist use handmade sci-fi tools to take out highly trained alien guards when we can sit here and be a family at Shoney's?
Okay, 20 seconds in, instantly feel ripped off. That's strike 1, Mr. Poopy Butthole. Oh wait, never mind, he's still in prison. Taking place right after the last episode left off, Earth is invaded by the Galactic Federation, with the only humans allowing to stay above the surface being a Smith family, who are trying to cope with the loss of Rick. Jerry is happy now that he finally has a job, while Summer is desperate to try and help Rick escape. Morty tries to double down on the fact that he isn't coming back and mentions a dead version of him that's out back. But instead she digs up his grave and finds his portal gun, now more hopeful than ever to save him. However, they're suddenly taken to the original universe where everyone turned into Cronenberg monsters, and all that remains of the family are Beth, Jerry, and Summer, who after 3 years of living in the apocalypse have turned into savages. I love this aspect of the episode, following up on the exchange between Morty and Summer back in Rick's Minutes, and having another nice speech between the two near the end. Meanwhile with Rick, he's stuck in his own mind along with an alien from the Federation, hoping he gives them all the answers they need by showing him his past memories. Even though Rick is now in control by making his memories all fake, I do recognize his wife. I know she comes back in some form late into the show, so I assume that aspect of his memories weren't faked. Also, during the interrogation, Rick drives the alien to McDonald's so he can order, what else? The Szechuan sauce! Here it is, the scene that ruined the lives of a bunch of late-teen fans of the show. Without this scene, among other constant mentions of the sauce in this very episode, we wouldn't have gotten this. I'm gonna quickly explain the Szechuan sauce now. So basically, back in 1998, to promote the Disney Mulan movie, they made a brand new chicken McNugget dipping sauce known as the Szechuan sauce that, for a limited time product, is considered one of the tastiest sauces in the entire history of McDonald's. Well, according to the writers at least. And so, once the sauce was mentioned in this one episode, thus began hundreds if not thousands of McDonald's locations being invaded by autistic Rick and Morty fans who demanded, nay, begged and pleaded for the sauce to make a return, and just ruined the days of multiple employees. McDonald's tried to circumvent the issue by quickly adding the sauce to the menus of participating locations, which caused lines all around the block outside said restaurants, just to hopefully, possibly get the sauce. Yet there was barely enough of the sauce for everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if riots happened outside during that brief period. The fans are that unhinged. They eventually did a full-on limited time relaunch almost a year later in February of 2018 due to popular demand, with the sauce being available in all locations, and all was right with the world. But ever since, they brought the Szechuan sauce back 3 separate times, and I have not heard a single fan excited for its return. That's a sign that the cultural phenomenon of this show died off in the 2020s. I noticed in June of 2024 especially, but honestly, now that I'm a fan of the show, I do hope McDonald's brings the sauce back again one day. That shit sounds delicious. Anyways, tangent over, back to Funny Science Man show. Rick finally breaks out of prison by transferring his mind from body to body, mostly of different Ricks from both the Council of Ricks and SEAL Team Ricks. Morty and Summer are taken to the Council as well, resulting in an exciting climactic battle between our Rick and multiple other Ricks. It ends with Rick crashing the Valley of the Federation's currency from 1 to 0, causing them all to leave Earth. So all's well that ends well.
Jerry's going to spend some time divorced.
Wait, what the fuck? So, in a choice instigated by Jerry, forcing her to choose between him or Rick, she decides to let Rick stay as the two are left to divorce. Honestly, good. Their marriage was falling apart at the seams. However, it turns out that Rick's plan was not only to send the Galactic Federation packing, but Jerry as well. After hearing that Jerry was threatening to turn him into the Federation, Rick did this whole elaborate plan so that he can now become the leading male of the family, in a rant that, similar to the pilots, ensures that this season is going to be the darkest season of adventures yet. Well, if in terms of quality, then that's probably going to be the case. Honestly, in terms of what Rick did, that's kinda horrible. Yeah, Jerry can be an asshole sometimes, but there's something about this out-of-nowhere divorce that doesn't feel right. Almost like he didn't deserve what was coming to him after 2 whole seasons of being the butt of the joke. Now I'm kinda hoping he gets brought back into the family at some point. I'm on Jerry's side of this one. Also, Bird Person gets resurrected almost immediately. I would get mad, but honestly this revival makes sense, and also I love the dumb new name of Phoenix Person. That was good. Honestly, aside from Rick's motives and how this doesn't feel like a completely worthwhile part 2 to the previous season's finale, this wasn't as bad as I expected it would be. Sure, stuff like Rick's elaborate plan to get rid of Jerry, as well as leaving real-life people to lose their minds over a 20-year-old chicken nugget sauce are almost irredeemable. Like, I'm not saying they did it, they just planted the seeds. But the episode overall was very entertaining. It kept my attention, and at least the characters of Morty and Summer are still in check. I guess the lower reception was partly because of the April Fool's joke, where this episode aired on Adult Swim for 4 straight hours and ruined the nights of Samurai Jack and Dragon Ball Super fans. But the episode on its own was still pretty solid. It's going lower on the overall ranking for its crummy deeds, but it wasn't awful or anything. If we ever get to a bad episode, I will sound the alarms. Also, what happened to the funny chef man at the end saying, "It's a good show"? Is it not a good show anymore? Well, let's see. The family is trying to cope with the divorce from last episode, as Jerry is currently on his way out. This opening scene right here just makes me feel bad. I can't state this enough. I want my man Jerry to have a happy ending for once. To get out of the house for a while, Rick, Morty, and Summer travel to an alternate post-apocalyptic universe where, of course, Mad Max parodies are sure to follow. It turns out they're carrying a rock of isotope 322, to which Rick immediately wants, as it's way better than just a tiny scrap of it. Meanwhile, Morty is giving a bigger, more muscular arm that has a mind of its own, and Summer grows a relationship with the leader of the Deathstalkers. As they're gone, Rick replaces himself and his grandchildren with android versions of themselves, and their weird way of talking and the stuff they say are pretty funny. After a bunch of meandering, Rick shows what the stone can actually do, which is power pretty much anything, and as 3 weeks pass, the post-apocalypse just turns into, like, regular ass Earth. I love that. What isn't great is the conclusion. Oh no, Summer divorced the helmet guy. Totally parallels his mom's divorce, am I right, guys? Just kind of feels like a rushed way to end things, on top of just being not all that funny. This episode was fine, it's mostly just another adventure with the three where stuff just happens for 22 minutes, but at least autoerotic assimilation had some really strong emotional moments. I'm putting this in between that and the previous episode and the overall ranking so far. It's below average by season 1 or 2 standards, but I hope this isn't the best of season 3 because god, this next episode sure isn't either. Say the line, Rick.
I turned myself into a pickle, Morty! I'm Pickle Rick!
Funniest shit I've ever seen. Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. It only took 23 episodes, but I finally found an episode that I would consider bad. Oh joy. This episode feels like it's written by someone who hasn't seen Rick and Morty and assumes this is what happens in the average episode. Rick turns into funny random thing for no reason. The rest of the family is awful towards each other. Have another character spout out the message in the most blatant, unsubtle way possible. Add a bunch of shark humor like tons of blood and gore and references to eating shit, and boom, we're done. That's what Pickle Rick is. And also a pathetic attempt to create a viral internet meme which they can market to fucking hell and back, and boy did they succeed, unfortunately. Pickle Rick made me laugh a total of 1 time, and it's with this joke.
It transferred the bottle from the trash to the recycling bin. Whatever this thing is, it's shaming us.
That was the only good joke. The rest just leave me empty. I mean, I also like Jaguar. Danny Trejo tries his absolute best to save this dumpster fire of an episode. And the action of the main Pickle Rick plot is kinda cool, but that's about all the positives I got for this one. The main plot takes way too goddamn long to get started and relies heavily on shock humor. The side plot is super boring and has the worst character in the whole show so far with the family therapist Dr. Wong. And the writing in general is just so bad. I'm so glad Jessica Gao didn't come back to write another episode after this travesty. And considering the fact she also wrote the fucking She-Hulk show, I'm not even the slightest bit surprised. I can't believe this episode won this show's first fucking Emmy, dude. I thought this was worthy over all of these. I'm not even gonna waste my time talking about this episode anymore. I wasted enough of my valuable time watching this godforsaken episode as it is. Pickle Rick tries so desperately to have a point that loops back around to having no point whatsoever. If that is an irony, then I don't know what is. This is going at the bottom of the list. Hell, bottom of the overall ranking. It sucks. Fucking next. You see, the joke is that there's no Vindicators 1 and 2. Do you get it? Please laugh now. So we're suddenly, out of nowhere and not in a funny self-aware Mr. Poopy Butthole way, introduced to a band of galactic superheroes, pretty much parodying the modern superhero movies at that time. Some members like Crocubot, the Ghost Train guy, and Million Ants are pretty cool and definitely fit this insane universe. And Noob Noob is funny despite his Mr. Poopy Butthole ripoff feel and barely having enough screen time, but too bad the former 3 died to Rick's elaborate saw trap we made while blackout drunk and fills up over half the episode. For essentially being the first time we see these characters, it's kinda lame that they're reduced to being sent to a death trap. Just makes me wish the episode went farther with this concept than what we actually got. In the end, it all turned out to be a party where rapper Logic is on stage. That was totally worth it. I barely got much to say here. This episode does its job as a Saw parody if you were expecting that, but it's very much on the boring side and there are barely enough moments of value. This is going above the last. It's mediocre. Jerry finally returns in the spotlight as Rick takes him on a fake adventure that was requested by Morty. Meanwhile, Summer and her boyfriend broke up, thinking her self-esteem is at an all-time low, and so using one of Rick's inventions and hoping to just grow her breasts so he can take her back, she accidentally becomes a giant grotesque monster, leaving Morty and Beth to try and reverse the complicated machine without Rick's help. Even though this episode is on the lower end of the ranking, I still found this to be the most fun of season 3 so far. Both plots were pretty solid.
What are you gonna do when your daughter asks you if she's attractive?
I'll say yes.
Morty is gross.
I kinda wish we got to see more of Jerry's side on the issue, enough to completely justify why he wants to kill Rick on the whirly-dirly ride, rather than feeling one-sided with Rick monologuing about Jerry acting helpless, as well as these cat people starting it in the first place. But the adventure was exciting enough, and the jokes were solid too. The wormhole tops the Goodbye Moomin sign for weirdest drug trip so far. The animation is great here. The B-plot doesn't have as much oomph to it, but I love the tiny customer service people gag, and the bond between Beth and Summer was nice. There are a lot of better episodes in this whole show so far, but halfway through a season like this, a middle-of-the-road episode feels like a godsend. The whirly-dirly conspiracy is going at the top. It's good. Hey look, it's footage of me at the end of this binge. How'd that get in there? Ignore that last episode. Now this is a godsend. After becoming relaxed in an alien planet, Rick and Morty have split into two different versions of themselves, their regular selves who are very positive, and their toxins who are very negative, with the latter being sent to a toxic world and are now looking for a way to get out. This idea feels like it came out of the first 2 seasons. I love this concept, and in execution I say it came out really well. The designs of toxic Rick and Morty are great. They look like they're slowly falling apart with every scene, while positive Rick and Morty just look a little brighter. It looks slightly off, but it fits the more positive versions of these characters. Positive Morty is a highlight right here. He's very charismatic and charming. His date with Jessica is the perfect balance between awkward and entertaining. I also love the Rick versus Toxic Rick fight, the brief part where the whole world is toxic, and Morty's new life at the end of the episode before turning back to normal. This episode shows that Rick and Morty can still recapture the magic and creativity of what came before, just when it stops being all mopey and shit. Rest and relaxation is going at the top of the list, definitely a rare high point for this season. Dude, how is this season getting better and better? I thought 2 episodes ago I would have seen the peak of the season already, but now we got an episode that's made it into my top 5 so far. I'm shocked.
I wish incest porn had a more mainstream appeal for a friend of mine.
Okay, that was just a reference to the term, but I guess that also counts. Add that to the counter. Also referred to as Tales from the Citadel, this is essentially a political thriller set in the Citadel of Ricks, while our universe's Rick and Morty go on an adventure to Atlantis off-screen. The Citadel is going under reconstruction after the events of the premiere, where all kinds of different plots are happening at once. There's a Rick being cop partners with a Morty as they take down a drug lord Morty, a Stand By Me parody with 4 different Mortys looking for more in life, ending with one of them jumping into the garbage dump, a wafer factory with Rex that's under a hostage situation, and it all centers around a presidential campaign where the only Morty, known as Candidate Morty, decides to stand against the concept of the Citadel. He's hoping to destroy the totem pole between Ricks and Mortys, stating that Ricks have always been superior to the Mortys, while they are just seen as either the sidekick or someone to kill. This converges into the amazing ending, where after campaign manager Morty is sentenced to execution via airlock after executing Candidate Morty, spending his final moments realizing he survived the gunshot and also won the election, his first day as president goes exactly as planned. It's revealed that the new president was evil Morty the whole time, killing all other members of the council who oppose him, as the space outside the Citadel is filled with corpses floating everywhere. It's such a tragic yet beautiful sequence, and it's also teasing him once again for a reappearance. Again, praying his revenge episode doesn't suck ass. The Rick Lennis mix-up is incredible. Another amazing experimental episode. This is what I was looking for in a season like this. More compelling drama that's done in a natural way and not in an annoying bitchy way. It's going at the top once again. I cannot believe a season 3 episode can be this good. If Rick and Morty needed the Emmy that year, this is the episode I should have gotten instead of fucking Pickle Rick. This is Season 3's replacement for Interdimensional Cable, titled Morty's Mind Blowers. Potential unpopular opinion? I like the concept of this more than Interdimensional Cable. While that concept has a lot of potential in terms of general wacky TV humor, this has more of a focus on the actual characters and the memories Morty has lost over the years. Or so we think. In an anthology of various memories wiped from Morty's mind, either by his request or forced by Rick, we find out stuff like the many deaths somewhat caused by him, times where the family is at fault for making him suffer, and eventually the memories that Rick wants to forget immediately. Things start to de-escalate when they accidentally erase their minds, and so now Morty has to use his own memories to hopefully return back to normal. The various different skits, like Morty being chased by squirrels after hearing their big secret, using a magnet to attract girls as they fly in like rag dolls, and laughing at a dumb mistake Rick has made all these years, mispronouncing granted as granite, are really funny for the most part. After consuming every single memory, Morty has Rick at gunpoint, knowing him from the bad memories and how much of a sociopath he is. But then Summer comes in to save the day, tranquilizing the two and regaining their memories via the mind helmet, which is just one of many solutions they have on standby. It's a quick wrap up, but I can accept it for being a wacky skit anthology above all else. Also, the rock cover of the main theme during the credits absolutely rules. Morty's Mind Blowers is another really solid season 3 romp. It's in my top 10 so far. Once again, the season is turning out better than I expected it would be. It's going under the last. It's just fun. A Beth episode. Yay! I haven't even bothered to mention this until now, but out of the main cast, I consider Beth to be my least favorite. At least Summer and Jerry have more plot relevance and actually have funny moments, but here, all she ever does is complain. Most of her side plots relate to her frustrations with Jerry, and half of her screen time is just her bitching and being a bad mother. Guess what our first Spotlight episode focuses on? If you guessed what I just said earlier, you are correct, but don't get excited, there is no prize. We're introduced to a parallel world Rick invented for Beth when she was a child, known as Chalk Zone, Fruity Land, where she finds out that a man named Tommy, who was presumed eaten by his own father and sentenced to execution, was lost here all this time.
I put real elbow grease into this place.
No, you're supposed to put elbow grease into your daughter.
I couldn't stand Beth in this one. Most of her dialogue is just bitching and moaning about what she's been thrust into, and I want her to shut up. Meanwhile, Morty and Summer are forced via bubblegun to go see Jerry on his custody weekend, where he has already rebounded with Kiara and Alien Hunter. I'll get this plot out of the way before concluding the main. It starts decent, but it gets worse with each scene. The three are exhausted as they're constantly on a hunt all the time with Kiara, but then Morty and Summer tell him to break up, and so off-screen he blames the kids. At first I kinda saw his point, they still run him under the mud all the damn time, but that's still awful. There's goddamned children. This causes her to go on a rampage until Jerry finally, or at least forcibly, admits to lying and breaks up for good. Nice to know that Jerry can be as heartless and non-caring as Beth when he wants to. This plot was tedious as it could have been solved very quickly, but we gotta fill up the runtime. Back to the main, we find out Rick invented Fruity Land just to keep her occupied as she was a violent child. In a scene that's way longer than it should have been, we see the amount of crazy violent inventions Rick invented per Beth's request while she was young, and so afterwards she uses them to kill Tommy and all of his minions back at Fruity Land. That's our Beth. After reconciling and resolving the whole issue by making a Tommy clone and saving his father's life from execution, set to a decently funny song about buttholes, Rick brings up the option of sending Beth away to explore the world while making a clone of her to look after the family. I'm sorry, what? I get what they're trying to do. They're doing their own jump the shark moment, even in a season where Beth and Jerry divorce. But this feels like it came out of nowhere. I'm not the biggest Beth fan, and even I think this is a bad decision, because I do know she goes through with it, as her original self does come back as part of the main cast alongside Clone Beth. Kinda comes off as a lack of respect for her character, tossing her aside and just replacing her afterwards. I know the universe we're currently in has their Rick and Morty replaced, but at least we're still following the original duo themselves from the pilot to now. Here, we're suddenly saying goodbye to a major character as they're replaced off screen. It's just bad writing. Now there's the moody mediocrity that I miss so much. The ABCs of Beth is a true return to form for Season 3, and that's a return to what Season 3 sucks at doing. The side plot is annoying and the main isn't much better. I know this sounds like something I'd save for the conclusion, but I gotta mention this now. For a season that was looking to be their darkest one yet, it's only strong when it isn't dark. Any episode that isn't focusing on their supposedly deep divorce storyline has been at least pretty solid. And then you have shit like this in Pickle Rick that tries to have a deeper message to their logically insane moments, and yet it just fails in my eyes. This one is still going above Vindicators 3, but it's still a low point for the season. Kinda hoping the finale isn't worse than this. We end with a very lopsided letdown of a finale, but I definitely enjoyed it for the most part. Shay Frillis, in a now deleted video of his about this very episode, stated that this feels like two completely different episodes scotch taped together, and I kinda agree. The President plotline is really engaging and cool, but it clearly wasn't meant to be the season finale, and so, in a dark season like this, they did a slapdash job bringing in a conclusion and called it a day. The first two acts are really solid, with Rick and the President going back and forth on not wanting to help one another, de-escalating more and more, and leading to a fantastic fight sequence, one of the best of the whole show as a matter of fact. As for the B plot, at first the focus on Beth trying to figure out if she's a clone or not was pretty interesting, even leading to Jerry finally regaining his role in the family as he gets back together with her. From the scene of the log cabin to the ending though, there's this sort of rushed aura to it all. Rick just admits defeat and they're all a happy family again, that's it. After trying to be as deep as possible with character dynamic changes and a more depressing tone, the conclusion just feels a bit too nonchalant after everything I sat through. It sort of felt like that was all for nothing, and that's what a finale like this fails at in my opinion. Beth states that their lives are gonna be
like season 1, but more streamlined.
That line alone makes me assume it's gonna be more like season 3, but with Velma level meta jokes. The next 4 seasons better have something worthwhile or I'ma be mad. In terms of finales, I found this more interesting than season 1's Rixie Business, but it's nowhere near the brilliance that was season 2's Wedding Squanchers. Even with its good qualities, I'm still gonna be putting this under the Rick Shank Redemption. It's fine. So, was Season 3 the worst season of Rick and Morty yet? Well, technically yes, but I just thought this was fine. It was better than I expected, I'll give them that. Some episodes were amazing, like Rick Landis Mix-Up, Morty's Mind Blowers, and Rest and Relaxation, but the worst episodes here make the bottom 4 of my whole ranking so far, while the rest are just fine. It's obviously a step down from the first 2, trying to be this darker season than usual and ultimately failing, but it succeeds when it's just trying to be more dumb but fun Rick and Morty sci-fi adventures. I wish the whole season was entirely that, but instead what we got was just okay. I am at least a little hopeful for season 4 though, now that their moping phase, I mean their supposedly dark storyline is concluded. I do kinda hope we get things back on track and return to business as usual. I'm not entirely expecting seasons 1 and 2 levels of quality here, just something average at least would be nice. I took a week-long break in between seasons. Take that, Ellis Mark. Let's get back into this. Edge of Tomorty, Rick Die, Rick Beat, opens this season in an alright way. It's only slightly inferior to season 3's premiere, but I do prefer this over the pilot, so yeah, this was solid enough. This one has some amazing stuff. The concept of the death crystals is top tier Rick and Morty creativity. And it's got some pretty solid jokes. I love Rick's side plot where he's being reincarnated in other realities, except all of them are fascist dystopias.
Bist du fascistisch? Nope.
Morty's main plot is pretty solid too. It's all an Akira parody, but I appreciate the amount of restraint they had to not do that one motorcycle shot that every cartoon ever does at least once. Morty trying to make sure he grows old with his crush Jessica, even to the point of dismissing her in the present, is really good. And the animation of Morty transforming into this venom-like demon is fantastic, I love it. The main issue with this episode, however, is what I like to call the Teen Titans Go effect, in which it tries to focus on getting their hater bashing message across in the most unsubtle ways possible over actually telling a good story. Their point is basically, Rick and Morty has gotten too political. I want him to go on classic Rick and Morty adventures again, which is very blatantly spouted by fascist Morty and the news broadcast in the main plot. It's like if I suddenly interrupted a video saying, I'm tired of doing this ranking video, I just want to do more tier lists and re-upload categories clips, so that's what my channel was all about, man. I just want to say this now because I'm expecting him to do this a lot more often. If you really need to focus on fans complaining about you not doing more classic Rick and Morty adventures, then just do another classic Rick and Morty adventure. Satisfy the request, not bring them up as a meta joke. If you want to do something different with these characters, by all means, but they don't have to be dicks about missing how things used to be. I get it, Rick and Morty do be meta and everything, but there's a right way to do meta and there's a wrong way. And Rick and Morty is slowly starting to creep its way towards the latter. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the ending's kinda weak. I love the payoff in the post-credits as well as Jerry's pronunciation of Akira and anime, but everything else from Hologram Rick suddenly turned to a giant monster lasting all of 20 seconds, to this premiere trying to do another Justin Roiland and unscripted speech about the future of the show and failing because of it feeling much more blatant, as well as this.
Oh, and then you guys can get married and like each other off in a testosterone-addled third
What
grade.
the hell, Summer? That's disgusting.
Is less than stellar to say the least. With the good stuff being really solid and the bad stuff being painfully unfunny, Edge of Tomorrow is going under last season's premiere in the overall ranking. At least that premiere had a more satisfying payoff setup in season 1, while this is an unfortunate sign of what's to come eventually. After the awfully written cold open, I was expecting this to be 22 minutes of nothing but the words poop and app, but in actuality, no, I thought this was really solid. Rick goes on his own solo adventure to his own private toilet and notices someone else has used it. This causes him to go to great lengths to find whoever shit in his own toilet. The action scenes were really solid here. Also, the robots in this one sequence use the same text-to-speech as Pam Tree.
Accessing delivery archive.
Haha, yes, plot twist, it's me. Santiago.
Just wanted to bring it up. I couldn't stop thinking about Santiago during that scene. Meanwhile, an intern from an alien ship has dropped by and tricks Jerry into developing an app with him. Love Finders pairs the user with literally anybody else at any given point, causing them to immediately give up what they're doing right now to go find their new soulmate. Because of this, Morty and Jerry finally have another adventure together to try and get the app taken down, while a rift between Summer and Beth is made thanks to the app. I know at its core the message is everyone's too focused on their goddamn phones, but this plot still got some great moments like Beth and Summer's fight in the designs of the aliens, who made the app just to distract everyone as they steal Earth's water. Most plots have good conclusions too, with the B plot ending with the app adding an ad wall causing everyone to delete it immediately, and the A plot ending with the alien who's been using Rick's toilet suddenly dying, as he sits on it, depressed, all while the bombastic holographic message he's made to the alien plays in the background. It's so funny yet so sad at the same time, I love it. Outside of the unfunny cold open, The Old Man in the Sea was a solid episode and it was done in a natural way much like the first 2 seasons. It's nowhere near the top tier episodes, but I still enjoyed my time with it, going above the last.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
Hey look, it's the meme that was everywhere 5 years ago. This episode is an elaborate heist movie parody, with multiple scenes of putting together a team, double crosses, big reveals of what really happened earlier, and everyone calls each other a son of a bitch. It sounds a bit too niche and not all that great an episode at first, but the execution is really solid. It's purposely confusing but in a good way, I love it. Elon Musk fucking sucks though. Man, they had no idea of the consequences that bringing Musk himself on would bring. I was really hoping the inclusion of him would bring the episode down altogether, but really the confrontation between Rick and Randatron and later Heistatron is so purposely complicated that it's great. It's all brought together with the reveal that Rick was behind this whole heist thing altogether just to make Morty less confident in his heist movie pitch to Netflix, and to give up on it so he can go on more adventures with Rick. This is a way better reveal than Rick purposely sending Jerry away from the family. It's still done with bad intentions, but instead of it being the driving force of a half-assed attempt at a darker season, it's just so Morty can stay going on adventures with him, and it's only relevant in this episode and nowhere else. It's exactly what I expect out of Rick. I also love the return of Mr. Poopy Butthole, how he's a professor who quickly lost his job after sending students to the hospital. There's also the cool designs of the other heist members, the funky heist music they play over and over again, and I even love the small role that Miles Knightley plays. It's way smaller than you would expect after being set up in the beginning. He just dies 8 minutes in, that's awesome. One crew over to Crew Cruise Morty, while obviously not perfect, is a really solid season 4 romp. This season is turning out better than I expected it would be. It's going at the top.
Dad, did you promise Morty a dragon?
This episode sucks, it's just disgusting. Morty gets a dragon after his last adventure with Rick as he was promised one, but it starts getting along with Rick instead. Turns out that this dragon is one of the slut dragons, and he starts soul fucking Rick. I did enjoy some parts. The montage of Rick hanging out with the dragon is good. Same with the beginning of the fantasy adventure with Rick, Morty, and Summer. And in conclusion to Jerry's B-plot where he gets a talking cat is so over the top and funny. The rest of the episode is ass. And no, I'm not talking about the show ass. Not only is the talking cat plot kinda shit and barely goes anywhere, but the main with the fantasy adventure just goes in heinous directions. Yes, I'm talking about the giant soul orgy.
Have a soul orgy with your sister and grandpa on every Dragon Week.
The main plot is honestly some of the worst sequences in all of Rick and Morty so far. It just makes me uncomfortable. I hate the slut dragons, I hate the talking cat, I just hate this episode entirely. It's going above the bottom 3 of the previous season of the overall ranking because at least it's more interesting than the others and doesn't jump the shark in regards to the main characters. But it's still worse of the season so far. I hated this one. This season better pick back up soon. Okay, there we go, back to average, just the way I like it. After getting bitten by a space snake and killing it, Morty tries to atone for its death and decides to send an Earth snake to the currently race-divided Snake Planet. Eventually they find out one of their own has been killed as they unite and start to take over Earth, as well as inventing time travel. Meanwhile, Jerry can float now. That's the type of contrast between both plots that I've been missing for so long. This one's got some great moments. Anytime the snakes are on screen is pretty funny, especially when all the time-traveling snakes stop each other from killing Snake Hitler. And the testicle monsters from A Wrinkle in Time come back to save the day, that's cool. Jerry's B-plot is pretty funny too, trying to prove that he can handle himself in all the situations he gets himself into without Rick's help. It's the kind of Jerry plot I've been missing too.
Take your girlfriend with you!
There are still a few problems, mainly the fact that it takes a bit too long for things to get started. The sequences with Morty almost dying and the snakes realizing the one that came back isn't their own could have been trimmed down. And also I'm not too big into the Justin Roiland voices coming out of the snakes in the latter half, though thankfully it's only for like 2 scenes. I'd much rather listen to more snake jazz. I would love to hear a full snake jazz song. Oh, and also it's only a Christmas episode in the end. I like the Christmas remix of the main theme in the credits, but outside of Jerry trying to hang up the lights and the Santa hats and the Christmas tree in the background, it's just a regular episode. It's less of a Christmas episode than Anatomy Park, which makes me ask, why not focus on it more? Either way, I thought Battlestar Galactica was pretty solid by season 4 standards. Could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse. It's going around the middle, it's good. Oh, we're starting already? Okay. Hey look, it's Mr. Krabs.
At least use the downtime to reset the acid lowerer.
Cool. This is another episode designed to be a confusing mindfuck, cutting from one random story to the next and throwing structure out the window just like the Ticket Guy. But because of the writing not being as clever, something like M. Night Shyamalan's, this is just a mess. Rick and Morty are trapped on the story train, with Rick even saying it's a literal story device. And they're currently in an anthology, and they want things to not be too meta. And do I even need to continue on with this plot description? Whenever they're not cutting to something completely different, they're just completely stopping the episode to slowly explain their character traits and what they're even doing, as well as saying buzzwords like continuity, story potential, and going beyond the 5th wall. And when they're not doing that, they're kicking longtime fans in the balls. This isn't funny, it's just tedious. Some of the stories they randomly cut to are pretty good, like the Bechdel test, the Flying Blood Man, the one where Rick saves Space Christmas, and the Story Train commercial in the post-credits, as well as Rick and Morty turning to religion and summoning Jesus just to reduce their story potential and free themselves. That was good, but they aren't enough to save this episode in my opinion. Even if this was all revealed to be just a toy fantasy in the end, it's still kind of an insult to tease the fans who are really into the lore and have been wanting to see what's next after 2 years of waiting in between seasons, by having their highly anticipated payoffs be nothing more than meaningless gags in the climax of a completely unrelated story. We haven't even seen Phoenix Person ever since its debut, and so here they are just being like, there he is, enjoy, fuck you. Maybe I'll be proven wrong and these events will happen in an episode someday, but for now, all we're left with is the television equivalent of finding coal in your stocking. Christmas still on the brain, sorry. Overall, Never Rick and Morty is a crap episode. It could have been so much more had they not kept circle jerking themselves with these annoying meta references. It's still going above Claw and Hoarder's special Rick and Morty, but I still found this super disappointing. The season is all over the place. We went from a painful dragon sex episode, to an average snake episode, to an annoying meta episode, and now we have the best of the season so far. What is going on? Mortius is pretty keen though. I enjoyed it and shit. I love how this starts with Rick and Morty just regaining consciousness on this lone asteroid. It gives us as much context to everything going on as they are, and the opening in general is really strong too. After waking up, the two start posing as Glorzo, which are the names of the face-hugging parasites they were strapped to, as they start to know more of the Glorzo society they are stuck in, including how Morty is seen as a celebrity over here, and Rick is seen as an asshole because of his different idea of how the world is supposed to work. At first, they think the Glorzo are going to annihilate Earth, and so they immediately escape in a thrilling action sequence akin to Star Wars. The sequence has some really nice moments between Rick and Morty. It feels much more natural compared to other episodes in this very season. They don't give jokes a needless pace-killing explanation that most are forced onto. Except for the 9/11 Pearl Harbor conversation at the table. Don't get me wrong, this is really funny.
Honestly, I'm proud of us for not.
Totally. Would have been cheap.
Yeah, real low-hanging fruit, and we're better than that. Pearl Harbor, on the other hand.
But it didn't need this scene, you guys, come on. During dinner, they realize they left behind Summer as they immediately go back. Though once they find Summer, now the goddess of the Glorzo, she seizes them pretty quickly, throwing them into prison. The rest of the episode is dedicated to explaining what happened before the beginning of the episode, and that part is really solid too. After being seen as a goddess because of her toothpick preventing the Glorzo from hugging her face, she convinces them to reform their society, getting rid of their reproduction rules and forming a new civilization on an asteroid. To the dismay of the Glorzo that's face-hugging Rick, this being the source of the rant video we saw from said Glorzo earlier. This scene ain't so hot, but I love me some good old lore dubbing that's actually necessary. The eventual ending was solid too, with Summer awkwardly sentencing Rick and Morty to death by just sending them to their car, but their escape plan fails immediately, so they just kill everyone with a harmonica sound. They acknowledge that there wasn't much of a point to this adventure and that they all suck, but at this point this is kind of refreshing. The simpler plots are definitely needed in this season. The episode even ends with Rick and Morty thinking they're about to die, but instead they shit on the floor. You shouldn't think about it too hard. Mortius is a much needed strong point for season 4. The solid jokes, character moments, world building, and plot structure come together and make a solid adventure. And for that I'm putting this at the top of the list.
Summer, I want to your dad.
Oh, really?
Even though it's probably going to be topped immediately by our next episode. This is the other episode that Rick and Morty won an Emmy for. And yep, it lived up to the hype. This episode is fantastic. I honestly can't decide if this or Rick's Minutes is the better episode of the entire show. It's that good. Now that gives you an excuse to stick around until the end. Ooh. After a failed idea that was Rick's fake vat of acid, Morty is at his breaking point in terms of Rick's ideas. And so Rick finally makes an invention that Morty wants to make for so long. That being a gadget that saves a point in your life and loads back to it whenever you want. That idea has obviously been done before, like in Futurama, hell, they even mentioned it at one point. But the execution of that idea in this show is unlike anything I've ever seen. When Morty starts using Rick's save point button in a montage, it starts off fine at first, causing mischief, abusing it like how he used Rewind on Switch Online to get what he wants, and sacrificing his own life to it multiple times. But then the montage suddenly shifts to another montage where Morty falls in love with a girl and grows more and more with her over the course of a few months, even with the arguing and briefly breaking up along the way. Afterwards, however, they find themselves lost in the snowy mountains after a plane crash, shifting to yet another sadder montage of them and the other survivors trying to stay alive, eventually resorting to cannibalism. Morty then starts an expedition to look for his bag, fending off wolves along the way until he finds it, and instead of using the load button again, he calls 911 with the most disgusting hands I've ever seen in an animated show. The way his finger decays as he touches the screen is really well animated. Throughout that whole montage, I was so dumbfounded, questioning how this once happy montage turned into this survival situation, while rooting for Morty and his girlfriend to survive at the same time. It's really, really good, but it doesn't stop there. Morty finds himself in the hospital, healing from his wounds, and eventually returning home with a happy reunion. until, in one fell swoop, Jerry finds Morty's remote, none the wiser, presses the load button, and sends Morty all the way back to before he even met his girlfriend. This leads to him running over to her and battling like a maniac as she pepper sprays him, whilst accidentally overrunning the save point. So he just returns to the pepper spraying over and over again, and after all that, having no will to live anymore, he falls into a gorilla pit and gets murdered multiple times. God fucking damn, what a montage. That might just be the greatest sequence in all of Rick and Morty. Starting comedic, leading into romance, then to a tense survival situation that ends up fine, only for it all to mean absolutely nothing, and all with no dialogue whatsoever over the course of about 8 minutes. It deserves to be remembered for years, even eons to come. That's not the end of the episode, however. Morty tells Rick that life is based on consequences and shouldn't just be relived over and over to fit your own desires. But Rick, who concocted the whole plan, reveals to him that pressing the load button just sends Morty to an alternate timeline and leaves the Morty in the timeline he loads away from to immediately die. He refers to this as prestiging all the other Mortys, and that means so much considering I watched The Prestige for the first time last year. First Christopher Nolan movie I've ever seen, by the way, consider myself interested in the rest of his catalog. Rick then decides to merge all the realities together after Morty begs him to fix things, but in actuality things are made worse for him by doing that. With a gigantic angry mob filled with multiple armies and groups of people, including an epic Gamergate reference, just outside their house, as well as, in the full circle moment to end it all, another fake vat of acid placed by Rick, just for Morty to prove him that he hasn't lost his touch. Thus, Morty, against his wishes, fakes his own death in this merged reality, unaware that his girlfriend now remembers him again as a cherry on top of this torment sundae. And all is right with the world. Well, at least this world, and not their home world, but you get what I mean. Everyone was right. This was one of Rick and Morty's best episodes, containing not only some of the most depressing stuff a television episode can offer, but also one of the best twists of the whole show. How this episode is in the same season as the Dragon Sex episode astounds me. Phenomenal episode, top of the list, I adore it. R.I.P. officer who thought he was immune to acid.
Okay, the therapists are getting bored. We need to increase their supply of incest porn.
20% wasn't enough.
Jerry takes the family on a camping trip, only for Rick to be interrupted by another old flame of his. Except this time we find out he fucked a planet. Yep. Over on the planet Gaia, an eruption of Rick's children commences, which allows Beth to spring into action. I was trained that this could be another annoying Beth episode, but actually no, all the family have something to do here. Not only do Rick and Beth manage a whole factory to decide on all of Rick's children's futures and even build up a civilization, but also Jerry leads a team of unproductives by teaching them the joys of camping, and Morty and Summer have their own little adventure too. I mean, they get high while trying to pilot and eventually crashing a ship, but the sibling relationship is still strong here. Things get crazier in the main plot, where Jerry strikes back against the rest of the Gaians, pretty much disguising how much he wants to feel important, while the Gaian's actual father, a godlike clown named Reggie, flies in and tries to take custody. This leads to a war between Beth and Jerry's different armies, as well as, say it with me now, Rick fighting with an actual deity. It ends with Morty and Summer crashing the ship to the deity and instantly killing him, but don't worry, Rick won't tell their parents, everything's fine. Tensions rise as Reggie falls to the ground and destroys the city they built, and so in the end, Gaia declares Armageddon just to chase the family out forever. For once, the family finally takes Jerry's side for saving Beth's life and admitting it's not all about camping and being righteous. But Rick, being the Jerry-hating asshole that he is, immediately spills the beans on Summer killing Reggie by accident. That's our Rick! Children of Morty was a solid little episode. It has a very similar plot to autoerotic assimilation. While most of it was uninteresting until a fantastic ending, this one was engaging all the way through. Once again, another shot in the yarn that Season 4 desperately needed after some god-awful crap. Going around the middle of the list, I liked it. Season 4 ends with Star Mort, Return of the Jedi, in which it's revealed that another Beth, known as Space Beth, has come back from her alternate reality for revenge against Rick. And a new Galactic Federation has taken over Earth. And Phoenix Person finally comes back. And Morty and Summer work together for once. and both of them as well as Jerry have fun with the invisible belt. Yeah, you see the problem here? This finale tries to cram way too much in the span of 22 minutes, both comedy-wise and plot-wise. So let's do what this episode is scared of for some reason and focus on one thing at a time, from least to most important. The invisible belt plotline is alright. It starts off with some fun morning and summer shenanigans, but Jerry's stuff with it is definitely better. From pissing on Tammy's dead body to moving her corpse around like a puppet to distract Phoenix Person. And the post-credits scene is hilarious. Invisible garbage truck Jerry is amazing. A shame it had to end once he ran out of gas. Morning and Summer's plot mostly consists of the type of meta-humor that I find annoying in this show. Most of their dialogue is just, hey, we're working together, that's our arc. We were once fighting siblings and now we're working together. Enjoy this while you can. And after the last episode that had some Morning and Summer moments done in a much more natural and non-blatant way, this is just lame and obviously should have been cut from the episode.
Dream Team rides again!
Oh yeah, we're like Luke and Leia, except no kissing part. What's another famous...
As for the Galactic Federation and the return of Tammy and Phoenix Person, it was solid but the most unfortunately rushed out of them all. We were teased their return ever since the Season 3 premiere, and then teased again but in a more annoying way in Never Rick and Morty, and now they're finally here, and both of them are only alive for about 2 minutes of screen time. Don't get me wrong, Tammy poses a menacing threat, and Phoenix Person's fight with Rick is fucking awesome, but they could have had a lot more to do if that tease in Never Rick and Morty was anything to go by. Like, I was promised a lightsaber fight between Summer and Tammy. I'm not the only one who feels ripped off, right? Finally, we have the two Beths plotline, the one that this finale focuses on the most. And yeah, I'd say this was the strongest aspect of the episode, but mostly by default, it had more legroom unlike the rest of the plots. I like the design of Space Beth, and it feels like she turned into an actually exciting character, much like Rick and Morty themselves. I can understand her intentions of wanting to kill Rick, in addition to normal Beth wanting to do the same thing once the two join forces, but even this plot is sort of rushed as that aspect is tossed aside once they started to fight Phoenix Person. Honestly, the ending is pretty good. Even though not getting a concrete answer on who the Beth clone really is and just going off of how the two Beth 2s were shuffled around is a bit of a cop-out, but I like Rick's reaction to all this, realizing how much of a terrible father he really is. He tries to be a good friend by fixing up Phoenix Person, but then he suddenly gets rejected, and so he's left alone, wondering what the family will think of him after his event, all while the somber music closes out a kinda rushed finale overall. This episode feels like they gave the most time and resources to the main plot, and then they looked at the rest of what they wanted to do and rushed it all out so they wouldn't surpass 22 minutes. What they should have done is pull Gravity Falls and extend this finale to a 44-minute special. Actually make it this huge event. Give Phoenix Person and Tammy much more of a presence in the plot, and give us the big season finale we were promised. But no, instead you have to give Dr. fucking Wong another minute of screen time. Fuck you, Dr. Wong. Star Mort, Return of the Jedi, is still a better finale than the last one. It felt much more like an actual conclusive finale for the season. It's still engaging for the most part, but it just ended up feeling overstuffed with way too much shit in the end, where you really only needed the Space Beth and Phoenix Person plots and nothing else. It's still a good episode, but it could have been a much better finale, going under Rattlestar Rick Lactica. Season 4 was a slight step up from 3, but not by much. It did have more consistent highs. The Vat of Acid episode especially is super memorable. Same with Prometheus and the heist one, but its lows, while not as low as 3s in my eyes, are just heinous. Kinda surprised that Pickle Rick is still at the bottom of the ranking right now. Even the Dragon Sex episode had some funny moments that brought it above that episode, but that was still just awful. The rest are either fine or, unfortunately, another meta-ridden sign of what's to come. The rest of the show still has episodes like the disappointing Evil Morty follow-up and Summer pulling a Die Hard, not to mention some of the incest episodes, and I'm just so excited for those. Only 3 more seasons to go. These seasons better surprise me like how Vat of Acid did, or I'm walking.
We now return to Nintendo 69.
Nintendo, oh, what are you doing to me? Oh, Nintendo.
I guess I ain't walking after all. This might be the best premiere Rick and Morty has ever done. I enjoyed this from beginning to end. As Morty tries to land the car after another crazy adventure, he scores a movie night with Jessica that night. Those plans get more complicated when Rick's nemesis, the god of the ocean known as Mr. Nimbus, also arrives at the Smith house due to Morty landing their car on the water. Much like the last episode, everyone has something to do, but this is done in a more balanced way. Summer and the parents have background roles, with Summer diving into the Mariana Trench to grab a magic conch shell, no not that one, and Beth and Jerry trying out Dr. Wong's advice and watching porn.
I might never come back from the ocean.
The main stuff with Rick, Morty, Jessica, Nimbus, and eventually entire generations of bovine people who get roped into this is all front and center, and it's great. Rick throws a few crates of wine into a portal, leaving them in another reality where time goes by much faster so they can age more, since Nimbus has more demanding taste. But every time Morty tries to get wine for either Jessica or Nimbus, things get more and more worse, with Morty now being seen as the boy who betrayed their entire race just for taking one of their own with him for what they conceive as decades over there. During all of this, we are shown son, grandson, great-grandson, and so on in this whole bovine family, wanting to avenge their ancestors' lives by swearing revenge on Morty once he comes back. Going from medieval times all the way to a cyberpunk future, and even beyond that, all in the span of like an hour or two in Earth time. It's amazing. All of the characters get roped into this as well, with Jessica getting kidnapped and seeing more generations pass by as she's frozen in time, and Nimbus eventually saving the day once Rick gets involved too. At the end of it all, Jessica decides to just be friends with Morty and embrace her role as a time god, while Summer returns with the conch but accidentally gives Nimbus more power, and Rick gets arrested. This was 22 minutes of chaos and I loved it. Mort Dinner Rick Andre is the best of Rick and Morty season premieres. So much happens in the span of 22 minutes, but it's done in a good way. I enjoyed it. It's currently in my top 10 of the whole ranking so far. It's great. 2 bangers in a row, and this was better than the last. What the fuck? Mortyplicity is another in a long line of Rick and Morty episodes that commit to a very unique and experimental idea for the whole thing, just like the first 2 seasons. Following hundreds of decoys of the Smith family as they get killed one by one, either by squids or other decoys looking to hunt them down. And it turns out the other decoys were also disguised as squids. It gets more and more existential as it goes on, the decoys themselves thinking they could be the real family or just more decoys, seeing them get killed in more and more brutal ways, and revealing more different looking decoys of the family, in a sanctuary of decoys that very quickly get hunted down and killed.
Say decoy again.
F you. Every other scene I kept thinking to myself, okay, this is the real family before they immediately die. Then again I say, okay, this time they're real. Okay, now it's the family. Okay now. Okay now. Okay now. Over and over again. And I guess that's the reaction they were expecting, so yeah, I say this was a success. The actual family remains unseen until the very end, where they're on their way back home from a vacation in space after they reunite with Space Beth. And that's when Rick realizes the decoy families are dead, where I assume the cycle might start all over again. The best reveal of the episode has got to be Mr. Always Wants to Be Hunted, who only appeared once before in the cold open of this very episode, as he kills the last set of decoys because he wanted to be hunted instead of all the other decoys. That's amazing. The post-credits scene is so goddamn sad yet funny at the same time, showing Wood and Jerry's journey after escaping, as more and more misery gets piled onto him like beavers eating nearly his whole body, getting turned into a mirror in cowboy times, and Christianity happening after cowboys as he is turned into a cross, all the while praying for the sweet release of death. This entire sequence is beautiful, no notes. Mortyplicity is another amazing mindfuck of an episode, and one that was definitely needed after last season's embarrassing attempt at one. I really enjoyed this episode. It's going above the last. Let's move on to the next. I'm a decoy, aren't I? Okay, glad that other guy's dealt with. Wait, what was he watching? Oh well, I guess I better continue what he was doing. Well, here's every Turner-owned show's contractually obligated Captain Planet parody. Right off the bat, I was expecting this to be a boring political episode, but actually no, this episode was just fun. I'll get the B-plot out of the way first. So Rick and Summer decide to have another adventure of their own, traveling to 3 different planets that are about to be destroyed, and all the residents in each have a party to celebrate. How depressing. This is the weaker of the two plots. It's more centered on having a wild party, but there are some really funny moments here, particularly the ending. Rick hooks up with this one alien girl who has tits on her elbows.
I didn't need to see that.
And seeing as it's ruining Summer's good time, she decides to put a stop to it by saving the final planet they visit from a meteor that was almost going to destroy it. And then the girl immediately leaves. It's a very Rick move and I love her for it.
Hey, she's the one that saved the world. Now we gotta go to work tomorrow.
The A plot is a lot more interesting, focusing on this female Captain Planet parody named Planetina and how Morty is falling for her, with Beth realizing from the start that it's a bad idea. It's the farthest I've ever seen a Morty relationship go, even counting that one girl in the Vat of Acid episode because that whole time with her was just wasted. We actually see the two grow together. There are some cute moments here, but it obviously wouldn't have gone anywhere. It was based on like 4 murders. Morty fighting back against the Tina Tears using their own powers is yet another fantastic fight sequence, but it's the first in a slippery slope for the two. Planetia starts forcing accidents like wildfire so she can be recognized for fixing them, as well as becoming more enraged and causing anarchy in the forest outside of Mineshaft, killing over 300 people. And it's all in this depressing montage set to this song called Flowers. It's just beautiful. This episode's got some great emotional moments, especially the ending to the A story. It's very sad. She was kind of a terrible person in general, but Morty still loved her very much and misses the relationship almost immediately. I'm still just glad they broke it off before things got worse, but damn, did I still feel sad for Morty. This episode was the weakest of the season so far, but like, this is in the top 15 of the ranking. I still thought this was really solid overall. Season 5 is aiming to be a lot better than I expected. Looking forward to what's up next. Please don't fall off, I beg you. It fell off. Rick Dependent Spray sucks ass. This is the worst episode I've seen so far. How did we go from an emotional roller coaster of a Morty relationship to this disgusting piece of shit? Just like Pickle Rick, there are only a few good moments, like the samurai who Rick and Morty predict is gonna survive the longest, but then he gets killed by his own sword and Rick now hates him for not buying him time. Aside from that and a couple of jokes, I did not like this episode at all. We're given the rare reminder that Beth is still a horse surgeon, as we're then shown a horse semen extractor that Morty then decides to use. When Rick tries to make a bioweapon out of the horse semen, unaware that Morty's is in there too, it spawns a bunch of mutated sperm monsters. I get it, Rick and Morty do be raunchy. Not only does this cross a certain line and is a bit too uncomfortable for my liking rather than being funny, but it also gets even worse when the government makes a huge egg harvested from Summer and
You'll be making a giant incest baby.
Rick and Morty, tonight's episode, the writer's barely disguised fetish. I want to elaborate on this further, so I'll make this quick. Morty's sperm friend that he named Sticky climbs up the egg and creates that.
That was easy.
It ends with a fucking "that was easy" joke in 2021. Kill me now. I know I'm cutting this short, but do you really want me to talk in depth on the mutated horse people and how they impact the plot? I'm too distracted by this plot point Adult Swim somehow said yes to. This is just disgusting. I know I've been using this counter for the funny lulz, but now I'm afraid it'll potentially double by the end of the show, because my lord, there's definitely going to be more of this to come. No pun intended. God damn it! Bottom of the whole ranking so far. What a terrible episode. Let's just move on before I get put on a list. A Morty King Rick Feedy is an interesting one. This is one of the only Rick and Morty episodes that I would call quaint and low stakes. Obviously things get out of control in the second half, any average Rick and Morty episode does, but I don't know, there's something about this episode that feels a bit cozy. We aren't following the characters on an adventure finding a mystical object or doing insane shit from start to finish. It's just these characters hanging out and having a good time before shit just happens to them. And I kinda like this one. It also felt relatable too. The start of Morty and Summer's plot really speaks to me and how I usually interact with other people. They're awkward towards the cool new kid, Bruce Chutback, but they're still looking to make an impression. Same goes for the main plot. Jerry's awkward one-liners are kind of like what I would say at a casual get-together. Yes, even with demons from hell. Look, as an autistic person, I'm not saying this is an autism metaphor or anything, but it's the little details of these plots that made me start to rethink my people skills. I never would have thought that Rick and Morty would resonate with me on this level, but here we are. As for the rest of the episode, I just found it alright. Both plots become more insane as they go on. In the A plot, Jerry's been sent to hell after he realizes he's just a punching bag for these demons who feed off of cringe. And Rick and Beth saving the day, calling back to the faulty skin hooks mentioned in the beginning, and weaponizing Jerry's cringe as a machine gun to escape. Meanwhile, in the B plot, the flying car is an in-depth character study by taking Morty, Summer, and Bruce to wherever she wants to go and causing mayhem everywhere. She even breaks them out of jail by disguising as a woman she killed and blowing up the police station. It even suddenly ends with seeing Rick on his way home, so she instantly sends the kids back home at light speed. With two plots that start off quaint and end in a crazy way, A Morty King Graffiti makes up for the last piece of shit episode by just being a fun hangout for these characters to take a break before being thrust into action once again. I'm putting this under a Rick Convenient Mort. It's good. Here we have Rick and Morty's first Thanksgiving episode. It's pretty good. This is pretty much another Rick vs. President episode, except replace the rushed season finale aspect with a very intense turkey uprising. After attempting and failing to pull a national treasure and steal the Constitution, which has a treasure map inside of it, Rick and Morty are trapped in their own house with the rest of the family, and the president is once again pissed off at them. Side note, I'm surprised Rick didn't make a blatant national treasure or Nicolas Cage name drop. Like, it was right there, but I guess they forgot. Just like the Rick President episode before this, they both try and outsmart each other, stating their own, very similar sounding plan at the exact same time, which is to turn either themselves or their soldiers into turkeys, with Rick looking to get apart from the president. Eventually, both their plans fail as a different turkey is given the president's DNA and turns into him. I love how Turkey President talks, trying to talk like a human in the most monotone way and saying he's a president every other sentence. It's great. Everyone starts to love the Turkey President more, leaving the real president with nobody to turn to. So now he has to team up with Rick and Morty to stop the rogue turkey and his growing legion of buff turkey human hybrids from taking over the world. While not an amazing episode and a little too complicated for the average viewer, this was still a fun time. I love how Morty repeats the same accident from the start of the episode, where he pulls the Sonic Movie 3 and accidentally cuts the moon in half. And I also love the president's life flashing before his eyes and how every other flashback is just the different PlayStations coming out.
The Berlin Wall has come down.
It's called the PlayStation. The winner is Shakespeare in Love.
PlayStation 2.
Hurricane Katrina slams Louisiana.
PlayStation 3. This is Maroon 5. PlayStation 4.
I want a PlayStation 5.
Brief headcanon for a sec, I bet this must have been put in there by Sony, just like the other sponsors that Rick and Morty have made commercials for in the past. There was a Blake and You Missed It Arby's bag at the start of the Heist episode, another episode mentioned Wendy's, and now I have the PS5 being mentioned in an episode. Corporate sellout much? Rick and Morty's Thanksploitation Spectacular is a solid Thanksgiving themed episode, and very much worth it for more of Keith David's amazing performance as the president. It's going under last, but I still enjoyed it.
Your kids and their grandpa are asking you to do an activity with them? When did that stop being a parent's wettest dream?
I guess around the time our family created a giant incest baby.
I'm only counting one for this episode. They mention this accursed thing so goddamn often. It's like they think putting the words incest and baby together is the funniest shit in the world, at least to Dan Harmon's sick mind, so just fucking put it on the counter, I don't care. Also, the giant baby himself even comes back in this episode, and Summer names the thing Naruto. Keep Naruto's name out your fucking mouth. Oh wait, I was supposed to talk about the episode. It sucks! It's not as horrible as Rick Dependent Spray, but it's still pretty awful. So, Rick, Morty, and Summer find the last of the Gotrons, which are obviously a Voltron parody, and I was expecting them to go on adventures with these mechs until the success goes to their heads, kind of like the Captain Planet parody, but no, it actually happens is so lame. After one adventure, they started finding more versions of the family to lend their own Gotrons, just so they can make the ultimate Gotron or something, but like I give a shit about that. The family all turn against Morty in a stupid and lazy way. It's more of a successful business empire story, with half of it being told and summed up through voiceovers or voiceovarians as revealed in the end of the episode. But no matter how many sci-fi twists they throw at it, it's all just so boring. They try so desperately to give Summer an emotional story, but it falls so flat. The scene where Summer expresses how she's all alone and has nobody in the family is good on paper, but it's just done badly in execution because she's talking about the goddamn incest baby again, and to crying about it makes me so uncomfortable. Also, how am I supposed to root for her now? She let the rest of the family just be the biggest assholes to Morty. His own mother even betrays him. But then in the next scene, the family is suddenly together again. It's all happening too fast for me to feel anything other than still angry towards the rest of the family. Why can't this episode do literally anything right? Well, there's one thing. The designs of the original Gotron members are cute. One of them is even voiced by Amy from Futurama, but that's about it. It's such a boring disappointment of an episode. Objectively, there are worse episodes, but this is definitely the one that makes me the most angry. Fuck this episode. It's second to last on the season list so far. I'd much rather go to Boob World instead.
Oh, excellent. I get to keep my clothes. I thought for sure I'd have to be naked to go through something this artsy. Oh man, no fair.
It's rare to see a solo Rick adventure, but when it does happen, outside of Pickle Rick, it's a treat. This episode is dedicated to Rick reviving Bird Person, Eternal Sunshine style, jumping from memory to memory inside Bird Person's mind and meeting a few people he remembered along the way, including a cool hippie version of Rick that can only shoot real fake portals. Not only is this an exciting experimental adventure, but also a good dissection of the actual friendship between Rick and Bird Person. It's got some very high stakes as the two reunite and then try to escape and wake up, but it also has some nice character moments with Rick doing all of this just to save his friend, and bringing Bird Person to the light side again after being transformed into a cyborg monster by Tammy, whom her nicer self eventually joins along for the ride. It's honestly nice to see Bird Person return to the cast. He's a very likable character and someone who's definitely needed after suffering through some of the show's lowest points. I don't have much else to say about this one. Rick Turtle Friendshine of the Spotless Mort is just a really solid dream hopping adventure with good characters in a creative setting. I'll be putting it above a Morty King Graffiti. I really liked it. After fixing loose ends and cleaning up the messes they made in various dimensions in secrecy, Morty tries to fill Rick's portal gun again, but accidentally gets some of the liquid on his hand, connecting to the thigh of someone else named Nick, whom Rick used to know. Rick, however, finds out about this immediately and decides to replace Morty using the Wheel of Better Things Than Morty, not realizing that it's making Morty feel disposable. As Rick starts his new adventures with two crows, Morty runs away and tracks down Nick, who is revealed to be in a mental hospital, and finds his relationship with Rick to be abusive. The two decide to team up and escape through another great fight sequence using their portals, as they now call themselves the Portal Boys. Both Rick and Morty have trouble with their new partners, with Rick being forced onto an alien crow planet after firing his two crows over there, and Morty and Nick quickly going against each other after trashing the garage. Amidst the pileup is the wheel from earlier, which the crows discover and assume they're on the same level of dumb as sentient shit and half of Paul Giamatti. With Rick getting kidnapped by the aliens and Morty in the brutal portal fight with Nick, the two find an easy solution with Rick's own crows saving him, and Morty severing his own hand so he can throw it into Nick's portal, instantly killing him. After both of their rough days, Morty expects him and Rick to team back up and return to the status quo, but actually no. Rick realized he has been abusive towards Morty all this time and that he'd be better off without him. I was a bit dumbfounded at first, but looking back at the past 5 seasons, it does make some sense. Though even after the good moments between the two, it shocks me that they're actually going through with this. This is the season's second to last episode, and I bet they're going to revert back to normal by the end of the finale. But still, the ending on its own was surprisingly emotional and a rare moment for Rick. It even ends with a pilot-esque ramble from Rick, starting the Rick and Two Crows show with 100 seasons, so it's bittersweet in a way. But again, obviously they're going to revert this almost immediately. Forgetting Sarek Mordschul's another solid season
5
romp, one that tests Rick and Morty's relationship, and seeing how they interact with another partner, as they wonder if they should actually stay together after all the abuse. It's going about the last. Okay, never mind. 5 minutes in, Rick gives up the Two Crows thing and we're back with Morty. Cool. Sadly, the first 5 minutes is where the episode peaks because it's time I finally bring up this Scott the Woz clip.
Hey Scott, it's Dr. E. Bill here. Got your test results in and it seems you've been diagnosed with disappointment. Oh.
Evil Morty is finally back. Let's fucking go. I love letdowns, Charlie. I love letdowns. Don't get me wrong, the episode overall is fine. It's got some strong moments like the first 5 minutes, which has some great action sequences starring Rick and Two Crows, as well as the brief reunions with Morty, and even some sequences like Evil Morty's backstory of making the Citadel himself, as well as Rick's tragic backstory on their own are really good. Some jokes also worked for me, like this one.
In uncertain times like these, I think it's important for me to say, eat shit, fuck you. The drug company's paid for me to say every word. I have millions of dollars, and I don't care if you live well,
And the ending with the triumphant remix of Evil Morty's theme is great too, giving Rick and Morty one final test for their partnership after their brief breakup. Those are only a few shining moments in what's otherwise a lackluster finale. The main problem, the number one issue that I and many others have with this episode in particular, the one that the entire fan base has been clamoring for the past 7 years, is the writing.
But the second he reveals he's evil, we're gone. I was eventually gonna hunt you down. There's the reveal. Let's dance. Rick, let's have dinner with the Morty president. Morty, the idea was to get back to simple adventures. The Citadel runs on canon. And he does not like serialized drama. Right, no drama. Keep it episodic. You probably don't remember. Check out season 1, episode 9, Rickheads. Excelsior. I mean, Dedoy, I'm basically Inspector Gadget.
Almost every fourth wall breaking line is just tedious and annoying. Not only is this an unsubtle jab at serialization, but it also has this attitude of we don't care, and it just doesn't immerse me into the story as much as it should have been. That's not how to write such a highly anticipated episode like this. One of the most hyped up sequel episodes in television history, and this is the level of writing we are forced to endure after fantastic episodes like these. The Rick backstory would have had so much more of an impact if it wasn't followed up with this.
Whoa. Dead wife? Yes, now everyone can shut up about it.
Man, fuck you! Writing staff, anyone on the Rick and Morty team, Justin Roiland even. What were any of you on to be treating such a huge episode like this? This follow-up should be written with passion, not out of spite. Say what you will about the Rick and Morty fanbase, but these people deserve more than to be thrown under the bus by their own favorite show. I feel like a broken record by now, but this is still just disappointing. They still tease another Evil Morty return, so I am a little hopeful for a better written follow-up than this. Rick Morty Jack is much weaker than it really should have been. Imagine waiting 7 years of build-up for this. If I was actively following the show, I would have completely dropped the series from this point forward. But seeing as looking over the entire show is my job, I still have 2 seasons to go. Joy. This one is still going above some other stinkers, even in this very season, but this is still in my bottom 10, just a rip off of a finale. So that was season 5, and even though this season reached new lows for this whole show, damn it, I'll admit I still mostly enjoyed it. The show's quality is still all over the place, but when 70% of a season's episodes are at least good, then that must be a good season overall. Seasons 1 and 2 are still better, but I much prefer this run of episodes over seasons 3 and 4's, even with both seasons' stronger episodes. That was a better season than I expected it would be. Although now I'm expecting season 6 to be a definitive drop-off. I know ever since season 2 I was kind of dreading the next season, like this is when things go to shit, only for said season to turn out at least okay or even kinda good. But I've heard war stories about season 6, and this ain't looking too hot. I'm hoping for at least one good episode here, just like the last few, but I ain't holding my breath this time around. Pray for me. This takes place after the last season's finale, and yeah, this sure feels like a continuation of that episode. The writing and comedy have taken a nosedive, continuing the season 4 trend of, hey, let's be meta in the most unsubtle ways possible. And if you couldn't already tell, I am not a fan of this style of humor. Meta humor can be done right, look at movies like The Emperor's New Groove and the Deadpool trilogy, but in recent years, meta humor has become the norm for some people, and those people don't understand what makes it funny, with Velma obviously being an example. The same goes for this episode because my lord, it never ends.
Ugh, you're back.
Oh shit, season 2, Jerry.
Sorry for the sitcom fight.
How did I end up not in my own universe?
Oh my god, the Jerry Baree!
Oh, the Jerry Baree. Deep cut.
That one didn't need that extra line. Might as well look at the camera and say, Season 2, Episode 2, Morning Night Run, B-Plot. What an awesome reference. This episode does have some highlights. The sequences with Rick and Morty back in their own universes are really solid, with Rick interacting with a voice duplicate of his wife inside his ship, and Morty being back in the Cronenberg dimension, where, after 3 seasons, has mostly turned into a jungle wasteland. The scenes between Morty and Jerry in this universe are the best parts of the episode, with Jerry still hating Morty because he abandoned the rest of the family all those years ago, refusing any forgiveness from him.
Morty wrote this fast because had to set trap, thought you'd have cooler shit. See other note, bye.
Motherfucker!
It felt kind of rewarding watching this, not only because we get to see this universe again, but also we see Jerry one-up the family for once, both here and in the Season 2 universe. I actually enjoyed this for about a fleeting moment, because everything else about this episode sucks ass. The side adventure with Summer and both Beths isn't very good. Most of the non-meta jokes aren't all that funny either, and we're even introduced to another alternate version of Rick named Rick Prime, like out of nowhere, who we find out has murdered Rick's wife, and that I'm sure we'll see again soon, which I kinda hope not. I didn't really think it was that great an antagonist here. It just felt like a last-minute addition, much like their universe suddenly being taken over by Mr. Frundles, and so now we're in yet another dimension for the rest of the show. The last minute of the episode is just the writers hoping Parmesan can make the audience laugh, which it totally didn't for me, and that's it, episode over. Also, something I almost forgot to mention, we get an offhanded confirmation that Space Beth is the original Beth, and the one we've been following the past few seasons is her clone. Nice to know that our Beth has never changed her ways. Also, I fucking called it. Solaric sucks, no doubt. We're already off to a bad start for the season. It's going on to Rick, Murray, Jack in the overall ranking. At least that episode had some stronger moments, despite it being such a disappointment overall. Remember Die Hard? That's half the goddamn humor in this episode. Kill me. They got Peter fucking Dinklage for this episode just to be in on the least funny bit ever. Really? So Rick, Morty, and Summer are being held hostage in Blips and Chits, with Rick and Morty hiding in the game Roy. The problem with them is that Morty has been split across all the NPCs in the game, and so Rick, as Roy, has to convince everyone they're all the same person so they can get out of the game. I enjoyed the save lot for the most part. It kind of reminds me of the Shyamalan episode, except it takes a more cultish turn, with all the NPCs trusting as Morty to appease Roy, the cult leader. Everyone having Morty's voice is a nice touch, and the emotional moment surprisingly worked for me, even with the context that everyone is Morty. It's definitely the better of the two plots for sure, but even if this plot sucked, it would still be the superior plot by default because the B plot is just as annoying as I expected it would be. All I have to do is show you these clips and you'd get the idea.
Make sure nobody else here is doing a Die Hard.
Sneak around, crawl in some vents, do a Die Hard.
Are you doing a Die Hard?
Walkie-talkie Die Hard, motherfucker.
I thought you said she doesn't know how to do a Die Hard.
She hates Die Hard. Miss Die Hard.
That's Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Die Hard, Die Hard, Die Hard.
The B-plot alone tanks this episode. It could have been an underrated gem if it wasn't for this joke that's desperately trying and failing to even be remotely funny. I get it, Die Hard is a movie that exists. Can you not just repeat it every other goddamn sentence like an SNL catchphrase bit? Die, a more well hard. I mean, Rick, a more well lived free or died hard. I mean, hard, die hard, die hard. I mean, that it's just okay at the end of the day. It's still going above the last, but even with its pretty good A plot, that B plot is preventing it from going any higher than where it is now. Die Hard. Welcome back, Dan. Don't mind my broken soul. So Beth and Space Beth are
Jerry, I had sex with your wife.
Okay, look, I've been as in-depth as I could about every episode up to this point, but for this heinous episode, I'm just gonna go unscripted for this one. Here's a voice recording from just after I watched this episode. Enjoy. What the fuck did I just watch? So, Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 3 follows Beth having sex with his own clone. Apparently that was worthy of a full 22 minutes, I guess. The video game stuff was kind of funny, but like, who fucking came up with this, and who at Adult Swim said yes to it? Those two should be fucking fired from everything until the end of time. Fuck, this was fucking terrible. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. It makes me so uncomfortable. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. Bottom of the whole fucking ranking. Whoever made this should be in jail. Apparently this episode is 2 minutes shorter than the average episode, but it's entirely because they aired a 2-minute long behind the scenes thing after the episode back when it originally aired. Honestly, easy to see why. This was pretty ambitious. So Rick has invented a machine called the Somnambulator that can turn whoever uses it into sentient night people whenever they fall asleep. They use it to their advantage by having the night people do their mundane chores, as well as help their day counterparts achieve their goals, like Beth playing the trumpet, Summer learning Spanish, and Rick and Morty growing abs. Jerry, meanwhile, is sending letters between his own day and night selves like a pen pal. I know this is another Jerry is a loser moment, but let him have a friend, damn it. However, the night family started to go against the day family when day Rick doesn't want to rinse the dishes. In true Rick and Morty fashion, a minuscule task like that is the driving force for the whole plot. It's great. The Night Family themselves are pretty menacing threats. With their sleep-deprived stares and raspy voices, they make for entertaining antagonists even when they're just the same people. The Night Family eventually takes over the house, making their day counterparts more miserable while they're trapped inside. Night Jerry, however, has a change of heart and leads the family to freedom, as the last few minutes of the episode are dedicated to a really engaging car chase, with the family rapidly switching back and forth from day to night people. It's a really good sequence, and the rapid use of sound effects in this shot in particular is just funny to me. You'd think the Night Family won in the end as the credits roll in a pretty unique way, but no, in the post-credits their lives get even worse. Thankfully, Night Rick has a solution to all their problems.
Whoa, how long have we been asleep?
It can't be that long. Oh my god. No! They killed the Choco Taco!
Night Family is a breath of fresh air for this season after the first 3 being absolute garbage, offering a unique horror vibe the show hasn't gone for until now, along with a very exciting climax. It's going at the top. In this week's wacky episode of Rick and Morty, the family takes a visit to Panda Express and gets some fortune cookies, only for Jerry to get one he really didn't expect. What's it gonna be?
You will have sex with your mother.
And we're back to Dan's sick kicks. Fantastic. What is it with this season and plots like this taking over every other episode? I don't get it. It's not funny. It's just gross. What's even worse is that the rest of the family thinks it's funny. Like, fuck you. No, it is not.
Why are you dressed like Morty?
Because Morty's mom is Beth.
I'm not unpacking that.
While the plot of this episode is absolute degenerate scum, you are not gonna fucking believe me when I say this was still entertaining. Not only is this another kind of fun Rick and Jerry adventure, but it made me laugh. Every surprisingly funny joke keeps dumbfounding me because it makes me ask what they're doing in an episode like this.
Those are those weird hex-headed screws. Do your screwdriver fingers...
There are also some awesome fast-paced fight sequences like the slow-mo killing spree at Panda Express set to the taxi theme, and the final fortune cookie battle at the cookie factory. These sequences are great in a vacuum, but I can't stress enough, why put them in this episode? They wasted Jerry's mom's first appearance since season 1 for this?
Jerry assistant clothing, makeup!
What the hell was that?
Reusable Sailor Moon sequence. If we ever need to show you becoming my assistant again, we can repeat it and save lots of money.
While there are some great sequences and gags, I still do not want to say the episode where Jerry tries to prevent having sex with his own mother is a good one. This uncomfortable plot being at the center of it all prevents the whole thing from going any higher than where it is now. Sorry, alien who poops out fortune cookies, your only time in the spotlight isn't all that great.
Why wouldn't you use this power to change the world? Or at least get Nintendo to make a portable VR headset?
Again, video game references are my kryptonite. Final Decimation is going above Bethic Twinstinct. It's still in the bottom 10 of the whole ranking because of what it stands for, but at least the good moments are still there to watch on their own online, without the context of Jerry's motherfucking shenanigans. That was terrible, I apologize. I kinda wish the short gag of the sight of Morty scaring everyone else at school after 6 whole seasons of insane adventures actually went anywhere, but I get it, we're focusing on the dinosaurs here. A group of dinosaurs have come to visit Earth when it's revealed their species have been traveling from planet to planet looking for a home. Said dinosaurs start taking over Earth by getting rid of jobs, the economy, and everything else just so the humans can do nothing. It's weirdly the most somber and calm takeover of Earth ever, but the president is still not having any of this and requests Rick to get rid of them, allowing him to host the Oscars in return. This episode was fun. It's cool seeing the other planets and how they imagined what the dinosaurs were like, how Jerry's book was stolen from the dinosaurs and stripped of all credit, sending him into depression, and the reveal that the dinosaurs were being chased by an angry meteor that strikes every planet they've been on is just so funny. The ending though is kinda weak, leaning into the meta crap a little more as the dinosaurs fix the rift that's been there since the start of the season, with Rick pissed at them for robbing him of using it for a 3-episode arc.
Shit, they're coming back!
And Rick bringing back portal travel and declaring more classic Rick and Morty adventures, talking to the camera and everything. It's a bit of a lame way to end an overall solid episode. Jurassic Mort mostly exists to just be a comedic episode with a wacky premise, but it was entertaining in execution despite the weak ending. Still, it's another good episode that this season sorely needs. Going under Night Family.
Previously on Rick and Morty.
Jerry, I had sex with your wife.
So this starts with a previously on that slowly incorporates events that never happened and...
Rick, do you promise I do, and for our honeymoon, let's go to a...
Oh, come on! That was barely a minute! Turns out that Rick and Morty are stuck in a previously on loop as they try to get out of it by saying next time on Rick and Morty, and are caught by a bug named... Previously on... Okay, I do like everyone going through the intro. That was a great bit. This episode is basically Never Rick and Morty Part 2, where, like that episode, most of the dialogue is
a bunch of groan-inducing wordplay for 7 TV critics that won't even enjoy it.
You got that right. In fact, Story Lord from that very same episode returns, alongside another appearance of Jesus. I like his previously on montage, but then Story Lord makes his way to the writer of the episode, to which he then explains how he came up with the Never Rick and Morty episode. We then meet exciting members of the self-referential Six, like Mislead, Flashback, Protagonic, Mr. Twist, Brett Kahn, and who could forget Continuity Error.
Oh, come on, that one's not even real.
Why does Mr. Twist have a Wallace mouth?
You just had to hate meta storytelling.
Morty, I hate it too. We're one and the same. The difference is the people writing you are not doing a better episode instead. Now we're introduced to this guy who makes the lamest joke out of them all.
I'm Joseph Campbell. Soup? Do some classic adventures, like season 1.
I'm so sick of that fucking note. What the fuck does it even mean?
Acknowledging it doesn't make it any better. Just do more classic adventures and less of this bullshit. I'm sorry, but I give up. This episode is a lost cause. They saved the day. That's all you fucking need. This is still going above Never Rick and Morty in the ranking. They're both in the same tier of meta adventures that are more obnoxious than funny or exciting, but at least this one doesn't tease fans with false hope of long-awaited payoffs. And it does make me want a Rick plushie, because if I ever see an episode like this one more goddamn time, I will use it to suffocate.
When an episode's over, look out, because yeah, here comes Tag Man, and I'm crazy.
I think Justin Roiland has lost his improv magic. Now I'm glad he's not on the show anymore. I mean, I already was glad because of the person he is, but now I'm even more glad. I was also expecting Annalise Piss to be annoying, especially in a season like this, but I really like this episode. Rick is becoming sick of these progressively lazier villains who are looking to fight him, as someone named the Piss Master arrives outside the house, to which after threatening Summer with a golden shower, Jerry has a rare moment of superiority and decides to accept this fight instead of Rick, leading to him beating the crap out of Piss Master. One aspect I love about this episode is that everything's finally coming up Jerry, being seen as a hero by everyone, including his family, and becoming an ore-powered superhero himself with a badass mech suit. I could watch him accidentally save the universe all day. The way he kills the planet of Hitlers is great. Rick, meanwhile, is dealing with his own issues, not caring about Jerry finally getting respect since he doesn't get any for doing the same thing. It's probably the best appearance of Dr. Wong so far too, with Rick making frequent visits at her office as he speaks out his problems, and responding like an actual therapist and not blatantly speaking the message of the episode. Another reason why this episode is top 20 so far is the scene at Pissmaster's house. Rick decides to make a visit over there, hoping to make him feel better or whatever, but once inside, all he sees is Pissmaster's dead body in the bathtub. Despite his best efforts to revive him, it's too late. Afterwards, Pissmaster's daughter is outside the front door, looking to make up after not hearing from him in a long time, as Rick puts on the helmet and pretends to be him, promising he'll be there for her. Then Rick finds his note saying he's gonna end it all just because of Jerry humiliating him and realizing this is what everyone's gonna remember him for. At that moment, Rick decides to honor him as a good man by becoming him, doing multiple good deeds, and eventually faking a sacrifice to make sure his death felt earned. It's one of Rick's best character moments, showing he can actually be selfless to the people he's fought with before. I love that aspect. Yeah, we kinda needed a quick revert to status quo by having Jerry's orb and superpowers be revoked, and the scene in the garage afterwards with everyone finding out Pissmaster ended himself is really dragged out. But everything else about this episode is great, much better than I expected it would be. Annalise Piss is going under Night Family, a great episode and much needed after most of this season's duds.
You take that sword, you're gonna get sucked into a whole complicated...
Oh, you're the one to talk. After being knighted by the Knights of the Sun, Morty is hesitant at first, but comes around to it. Right until...
Now just cut off your penises and throw them into the sun.
Morty leaves the Sun Kingdom immediately, besting the king in battle and becoming the new king along the way, but the Knights still refuse to leave him alone, and so, unaware of the consequences, he decides to free them all by proving their religion is false. Thus, Morty's actions lead to Solar War 1, with all the planets fighting over who gets to be in the middle of the solar system. With Rick saying Morty's adventure would just be boring, I'm kinda surprised it wasn't that overall. In a season like this, they would just make it boring, but there are some aspects I enjoyed, like Rick deciding to be more accepting of Morty's choices for this adventure, the war sequence between the planet's rulers being entertaining, and the ending conflict where Morty has to have his dick cut off. The scene where they use all the trackers for holographic, fake, and prosthetic dicks is the right amount of overdrawn. It was a funny bit. As is the callback to the fake vat of acid in the end. More natural references to previous episodes, please. Less of this blatant, deep cut shit. A Rick and King Mortis Mort is another rare good episode for season 6. It's not great, but it's another godsend after suffering through its less than stellar episodes. I'm putting another Jurixic Mort. We end the season with the Christmas episode, and another holiday special that involves the president. Overall, I thought this was around the same level of quality as the other one. It could have been better, but it could have been worse. Rick gets Morty a real lightsaber for Christmas, but Morty accidentally drops it perfectly vertical as it starts dropping layer by layer. This is the first time we see how fucking deep this basement goes. Holy shit, none of this was here before, and may I ask why? During Morty's trip down the basement layers, we find out that early in the previous episode, Rick replaced himself with a robot that's more accepting of Morty. Gotta admit, did not expect that at all. They kinda teased at it with a brief line from Morty, but I just thought that was a joke. The real Rick still needs to hunt down Rick Prime, previously seen in the premiere, and the stuff between him, his robot counterpart, and Morty are pretty strong. It's a bit of a shame that the president stuff interrupts it. I get it, Star Wars keeps getting ruined. Every other adult cartoon ever has said this already. Also, what's the president have against Morty all of a sudden? This rivalry between the two came out of nowhere. Usually it's Rick who fights with the president. Why is he suddenly a complete ass towards him and even the rest of Earth? I still enjoyed the rest of this one. The lightsaber battles are cool. I love the 2 more hour extended cut of Miracle on 34th Street they keep cutting to, where the guy just names a bunch of streets. The sacrifice made by Rick Bot is a nice moment, same with real Rick offering Morty to join him in the search for Rick Prime. There are some good things in here, I just wish the Star Wars joke didn't keep getting blue milked. Rick Shuttle Mort Poon's Rick Miss Morcation is a solid enough way to end a season like this. It's going above the last. Also, this episode is the last one with Justin Roiland involved. We'll talk about that in just a bit. I'll try to unpack that as quickly as I can.
It's the most painful shit I've ever had to deal with, and I'm fucking bringing you into it because you asked for it, Morty. You and me, Morty.
This is the worst season, hands down. It did pick up in the second half, and episodes like Night Family and Analyze Piss were great. But when a season's lows are as low as Justin Roiland's morale, or Dan Harmon's hesitancy to add another incest joke, it's hard to call this season good or even just okay. It gets very heinous with episodes like Bethic Twinstinct and Final Despotation, entertainment in the latter be damned.
You just feel the savings.
And the overall humor has reached a new low as well. It still makes me laugh sometimes, and most of the character moments here were pretty good, but this season is the first that felt like it was made out of obligation rather than out of passion. Any season past 2 I can give the benefit of the doubt in terms of the stories they wanted to make. Season 3 had the, quote, darkest storyline with the divorce. Season 4 had the Vat of Acid episode. Season 5's lineup was strong, at least in my opinion, so that gets a pass for me. But 6, with a lower batting average in terms of it making me laugh, and the amount of stuff that made me feel dirty, this season is definitely the one I'm least positive towards. I am mostly expecting Season 7 to be a step up, but I'm also kind of grateful we're almost done. So, in between this season and the next, all of this came out in regards to Justin Roiland, and so in January 2023, Adult Swim fired him from the show. Rick and Morty will be getting new separate voice actors in his place, with Ian Cardoni as Rick and Harry Belden as Morty. The same thing happened with Justin's other show, Solar Opposites, where the next season of that opened with probably the best recast of the character ever.
Who picked the voice-fixing Ray?
I told you not to throw metal around here. We're going to be late to work. Stop buggering about.
This is definitely the lesser of the 2 big recasts that year, considering who's being replaced. Yes, the other one is Mario. I know Justin Roiland is absolute scum, but the style of comedy he did won't be forgotten. The earlier episodes are still meant to be enjoyed even after the drama. Most of them were well made in the first place. I won't miss Justin the person, but I will miss his level of energy that was baked into the show from the very start. Still, with the new voices, I'm interested in seeing what new talent will bring to the show. Will the whole vibe change? Let's find out. They removed both created by credits from the end of the intro, instead moving them to the end of the credits. And thank God, because honestly even Dan Harmon is a bit of a freak too. This counter exists for a reason. Anyways, I'll start with how I feel about the new voices. For Rick and Morty, while they do sound a bit off, more so in the case of Rick, the new VAs did a really good job recapturing their old voices. They sound similar enough. But as for Mr. Poopy Butthole, now voiced by John Allen, man does he not sound right. It sounds like Mr. Poopy Butthole got strep throat, and when this episode is all about him, it's a bit of a bad first impression for the new guy. So Mr. Poopy Butthole, who I'll call Wayne from now on because that name is a mouthful, has been crashing into Smith House for a few weeks now after losing his wife and kid. Rick, through force by Beth, decides to bring together his other friends for an intervention, aka just getting wasted. It's cool to get to see Bird Person again, now with a daughter. Like, it's nice that revival episode wasn't all for nothing. And also Gearhead is worth a mention because I neglected to for most of his appearances until now. Basically, Gearhead is the Kenny of Rick and Morty. In every one of his appearances, he gets mutilated or killed in some way, like getting his head ripped off in the case of this episode. And so every time I see him, I'm just like, okay, how's he gonna die this time? Also, Hugh Jackman is here, and I thought this was some South Park parody of him, but no, that's actually Hugh Jackman. That's kinda awesome. them. Wayne, after faking that today was his birthday, calls out Rick for being a bad friend, as he and everyone else try to convince his wife to take him back, before realizing her new husband is Predator. A fight between him and Wayne's friends ensues, which Wayne stops because it's not right. After things seem to end pretty chill, Hugh Jackman immediately kills the guy. Finally, it ends with a bittersweet Stand By Me-like ending, with Wayne's very strange voice narrating where his friends are now. I like the fading pills gag. I thought that was just an odd stylistic choice. This episode was fine. I only laughed at a few bits like Rick's ghost machine stopping his business maker just so it can have unfinished business. Hugh Jackman was funny sometimes, and the episode peaked at the Predator fights, but this one, much like the pilot, felt a bit too standard for this show. The sci-fi twist is still here, but it just felt like a standard party episode. Also, a deep character study on Mr. Poopy Butthole doesn't seem like a great idea, and the execution could have been better. Overall, an alright way to start the season, at least it was better than the last premiere. As for the Jarek trap, I had fun with this one. After Jerry insults Rick on how dumb he is for not helping him get a rake back from his neighbor, Rick decides to swap minds, which is somehow different from brains, and...
Wait, no!
It turns out that their minds have been shuffled around until their personalities merged. Both Rick and Jerry have become part Rick and part Jerry. While that would have sounded very confusing, I love the friendship the two grow. They're both very entertaining here. After dealing with a mob boss by using Rick's cone head to completely stab him, they at first decide to have their minds switched back, but then their desires of wanting to stay friends gets in the way as they leave the family with a half-assed note. The two become crime-stopping partners with Hawaiian shirts, now under the names Burgers and Fries. And the dynamic these two have are a lot of fun. The mob boss is somehow still alive, as he kidnaps the family and plans to kill them if Burgers and Fries don't show up. And so, deciding to use their best idea, they arrive as one monstrous entity, Jerricky. I love this design. They both talk at the same time like a Dragon Ball fusion, and their multiple arms and legs make them look like a centipede. It's very otherworldly. Once they save the day, Jerricky thinks about staying fused together, only loving themselves from now on, and not even getting the rake back can change his mind. So naturally, after Sideshow bobbing themselves, they quickly revert back to normal, fighting with each other. They hate each other again, but I won't forget the good times they had. They were legendary. This was a blast of an episode. Every time both bizarro versions of Rick and Jerry are on screen is great. Though I wish I saw more of how it impacts the rest of the family. They probably should have had more of a role. Still, I had a lot of fun here, going above the last. Oh great, an episode all about my favorite character, Dr. Wong. Yippee! This is the weakest of the season so far. It was very mid. Rick is still doing his therapy sessions with Dr. Wong when he gets roped in with another mission from the president. This is when the two of them meet as they start growing a liking to each other. I thought this was going to be super boring, but it gets a little more interesting with the return of Unity from season 2. The hive mind she takes over in Virginia is pretty cool, but after that first escape sequence, it just sort of gets worse. Wong immediately dumps the president, the relationship doesn't really go anywhere, but he tries to get her back by creating a new hive mind. Honestly, I didn't really give a shit about this one. This is the weaker of the two Unity episodes because instead of the occasional strong emotional moment with Rick, we get a lot of fucking vomit. Like, a lot of vomit. Vomit can sometimes be funny when the timing is right, but most of the time, including in this case, it's here just for gross out and nothing else. I liked the scenes between Rick and Unity, at least when they weren't interrupted by Wong on suddenly speaking the message again, but that's about it. Air Force Wong is nowhere near the bottom 10 of this show, but it's still below average. It's going at the bottom of the list, not entirely bad, just unremarkable. To start off this roller coaster of an episode, the cold open is amazing. The fast pace along with the smooth animation of everything from the spaghetti to the family's movements are really strong. And the hard cut to him getting the spaghetti from a dead guy is really funny too. Morty's reactions are just great. Fantastic first 50 seconds, but that's just the beginning. Rick's famous delicious spaghetti has always been a favorite for the Smith family. But then it's revealed that the spaghetti comes from another planet where people's intestines become spaghetti after ending themselves. Morty, obviously devastated about this, is then roped into turning this morbid realization into a business. Immediately the planet turns to shit, with everyone there already dead and turned into Morty's spaghetti in a can. Not only is this episode really funny with Rick and Morty's solutions on how to appease the demand for intestine spaghetti, among other morbid but still hilarious moments, but it also has one of the greatest emotional sequences in the entire entire show, with this dying guy named Fred Bunks offering to show the world what everyone has been eating by letting himself die. During his final moments, we are shown a montage of his entire life through his point of view with no dialogue, televised to everyone on the planet. And it's a depressing sequence, yet it's so beautiful. I don't want to go further on how amazing this is, just go watch it for yourself. It nearly made me cry. The disclaimer at the beginning of the episode is there for a reason. That's Morty is amazing. The humor is strong, the emotions are at a series high, and I'm glad that the new voices for the main characters can still recapture the level of reactions Justin left behind. Top of the list. Evil Morty is back. Again. This fourth Evil Morty appearance is definitely better than the last, even with the main antagonist being Rick Prime instead. I like the dynamic he has with Rick and regular Morty, being more of an ally who wants what Prime has. He isn't just tossed to the side, he plays a substantial role here, focusing on who the true bad guy is and stealing all the hard work he's done once he's been defeated. So we're definitely going to be seeing him again. The plot of this episode is very simple, just Rick finally catching Rick Prime with the help of both Morty and Evil Morty. And they ran with it, creating some of the rawest fight sequences in all of Rick and Morty, along with making Rick Prime much more of an evil antagonist by revealing he's killed every single Diane across the multiverse. Diane's the name of his dead wife, by the way. The misery is expressed through the different Ricks we see trapped in Rick Prime's space prison as they face off against each other. Slow Mobius from Rixie Business is back, but he returns only to get murdered immediately and erased from existence, just to show how Rick Prime doesn't fuck around. The post-credits of his family finding a better future is really nice though. The best part is the ending, where Rick finally kills Rick Prime by beating him to death, dedicating his final words to fully taunting him, and declaring how Rick wouldn't exist without him. Afterwards, Rick, mirroring Morty and Rick Potion number 9 with the same music and everything, wonders if he even has a purpose anymore after finally achieving his lifelong goal of revenge. Having a loving family is nice, but his 1,000-yard stare is still with him, thinking about what he lost along the way and wondering if all of the insanity was worth it at all. This episode is amazing, no question. That's a Morty is still the better episode in terms of humor, but this is still in my top 20 for the whole show. Not only giving Evil Morty a role and not in an annoying way, but also adding an existential conflict for Rick, asking himself how his revenge quest is over so quickly. I wonder what he's going to do next. It'll definitely be interesting to think about moving forward. Great episode.
I did it, Morty! I killed the versions of us that were in Space Jam! Help me with the bodies!
Wow! How'd you do it, Rick?
It was easy, Morty. They welcomed death. They wanted out, Morty.
This takes place after the last episode, with Rick completely drunk and still depressed after defeating Rick Prime. And so Morty decides to bring out the various adventure punch cards he kept over the years so he can finally go in another one. However, Rick would rather deal with this in a legal way. This leads to another fake clip show in the same vein as Total Recall and Morty's Mind Blowers, just like the good old days. Except this one isn't as strong as those two. It still made me laugh. I loved moments like Churi, the Morty boats, and who could forget Leg Rick?
Hey, look, Morty! I'm a leg! A leg, Morty! I'm Leg Rick!
My only issue with this episode is the framing device. Instead of parasites slowly taking over the house and brainwashing the family with fake memories, or Rick and Morty looking over the memories they wanted to forget, this one features an intergalactic rock thing that sees all and plays whichever clip you tell it back. The first half is mostly back and forth between the family and the Rock. One of them says, "Get out." The Rock says, "Look at this shit," and a clip plays. The second half takes place at court after the Rock gets run over to pieces by a truck and dies, and it's mostly more of the same, with the Rocks proving how awful Rick and Morty are. Apparently an actual clip from the episode Me Seeks and Destroy plays at one point. No other real clips play, so I don't know what it's doing here. This episode was still worth watching though. My favorite clip has got to be the gun bit, where Rick hands him a random gun, doesn't explain what it does, and Morty does the wrong thing with it.
Well, how are you gonna bully another bully?
What are you doing?
Rick just hands him a gun afterwards, and the gun just shoots out Jeffrey Dahmer. That's the level of random that I miss out of this show. Well done. Rick vending your morts is going out of the last. I had fun from beginning to end, though I just wish the framing device was more memorable. Also, this is the first appearance of Jessica since the season 5 premiere. They really just forgot about her, didn't they? Remember when the school was a much more recurring location? Wet Quad Morgan Summer is one of the least funny Rick and Morty episodes, as well as one of the most disgusting. I'm telling you, most Summer episodes aren't very good. Rick gives Summer an attribute slider, one that Morty wanted for a long time, as she uses it to her advantage in a party she's gone to. Morty and Summer fight for it, which leads to...
Open your mind! Oh my god, what the fuck?
Are you sure we've gotten away from the blech moments? So, Summer and Morty become a quado from Total Recall. Not only have I not seen the movie to get the joke, but it also just makes me want to watch Total Recall instead. Also, the visual is kinda gross, and it's also horrendously unfunny. All Morty says is, "Open your mind!" And it gets even worse when other quados come in and they only say, "Open your mind too." No matter how many times you repeat it, it doesn't get any more funny than it already isn't. Rick's gotta have a subplot to make this more entertaining. Oh wait, he's just watching 2023's hottest meme, Is It Cake? Yeah, the morbid twist makes it unique, but it doesn't make it any less of a Simpsons-ass dead meme reference. The second half is definitely more interesting, but I still found it pretty shit. Some other quado named Kenneth has kidnapped Summer and cut Morty right out of her stomach too. So now she and Rick have to save him. Stuff just happens for the sake of it, like Rick's overly repeated unfunny "where is she" bit, along with some D-tier inventions, and Kenneth growing more quados inside one another, and I just wanted this to end for most of the runtime. We did not need a 30-second long sequence of Rick trying to shake Kenneth's quado off his spider walker thing. It just felt like a waste of time, much like the rest of this episode. We don't even see Morty transform back to normal in the end. I know it's a cartoon, so obviously he'd be normal in the next episode, but the on-screen resolution would have been nice. Instead, they end on the lamest post-credits scene where the joke is just... 69 is a funny number, am I right? This episode sucked. I didn't enjoy this one at all. It's going above some other singers, but it's still pretty low on the ranking. Bottom of the season 7 list, obviously. Also, there's this quado dude in the episode named Quiet, like a K in front of my own name, and that offends me personally. Hashtag not all Wyatts.
That's what froth is about, bitch!
Sick Ribbit King reference, bro. I'm actually kinda shocked to see this. This was a joke they made all the way back in Get Swifty in season 2. And that was one of my favorite absurd bits of the show. So let's see what a full episode of this is like.
Father!
Hell yeah, we're into the same sick shit, huh?
Well, this sure was what I expected out of a premise like this. Pretty dumb. It's entertainingly dumb, but it was still very stupid. If you want a 22-minute battle between letters and numbers and eventually the infinity sign, where most of the jokes are just puns related to numbers, letters, and punctuation, this is the episode for you. I had some fun with it, but mostly due to how dumb it all is. Also, welcome to the first episode of Morty, by the way. Rick is nowhere to be found. Instead, his math teacher joins him in this wacky adventure. Yes, why not have his spotlight episode now and not earlier when he was more relevant? I basically described most of this random episode, so here are just some random notes I took. Why is Q pissed at Ice-T for making music in the 4/4 time signature and calling him a number-loving traitor? Is he supposed to count with letters? How the fuck does that even make sense? Do all numbers have genitalia? Like, Infinity clearly has balls. Why does he have those? Was there a number Hitler? Did John Wilkes II shoot Abraham Lincoln? Does the number 9 live in shame knowing he was referred to the name of a terrorist attack? If a letter and a number have sex, what is their offspring gonna look like? The number icons, the Pixar's cars of the Rick and Morty universe. This episode is going above Air Force Long. I was at least not bored by this, but this was still a dumb episode. Can't wait for Challenge of the Geometrons in season 12. They are definitely gonna make that. At least the P character isn't named after P. Diddy. Rick tries to prove to Morty that there is an afterlife, leading to them going to Norway just so Rick can get killed by Bigfoot. Him and eventually Morty make it to Valhalla, a place where people basically can't die, as they try and make their way back home. Meanwhile, Bigfoot escapes and gets caught by the hands of the Pope. who has dealt with Rick before, and so he works with him to try and get rid of Rick, who they don't realize is just a brainless clone of him. This is yet another okay episode for this season. It picks up in the second half when Bigfoot teams up with Rick and Morty to take down the Pope, but most of that is just the same gag of them getting killed over and over, obviously referencing Doctor Strange. Usually seeing characters get killed over and over is a funny bit, look at Mortyplicity for example, but they're just getting killed in the exact same way over and over and over again, so it's just not funny and mostly here for padding as a result. It just makes me wish more of this plot took place in Valhalla, actually do more of the story than this repetitive crap. The Pokemon joke isn't enough to save this episode from Midtown. It's going about the last, let's just move on to the final episode already. Our last episode is a really strong one. I thought Fear No More was a fantastic finale. So Rick and Morty are noticing that they've been desensitized to fear while visiting this scary amusement park, as this one guy, looking all suspicious and dark, takes them to Denny's. Assuming he only wanted a ride, they go inside anyways to find out that there's something called the fear hole in the bathroom. Rick wants no part in this, but Morty, as curious as ever, jumps in for the ride of his life. Morty lands at the bottom of the hole to find some really spooky shit, with Rick coming in behind Morty to save him. They crawl out thinking it was over, but once they get home, an alternate version of Rick suddenly falls in through a portal as he disintegrates, leaving Rick's wife, Diane, behind. The two start acting suspiciously, thinking how weird it is that this is happening right after the whole fear hole thing, but instead Rick decides to reconnect with his wife after all these years. Things between the two start off kinda rocky, but they eventually reconnect and find themselves in love again. Morty, however, is thinking through his multiple theories on if they're still in the hole or not. The scenes between the two are nice, with Rick finally feeling happy for once that the woman he lost has finally come back. But as he is with her, he slowly turns more and more sick. We, the audience, start to ask questions just like Morty at this point. Maybe Morty's fear is becoming alone, either through Rick dying or him just spending all his time reconnected with his dead wife from now on. Morty finally returns to the Denny's for answers, with the man in the suit waiting for him. He reveals that they're both still in the fear hole, and that he's not willing to free Rick alongside Morty, demanding to be released. He knows that Rick is the type of person who would rather die than face his own fears and admit to them. The evil laugh is a bit hokey, but it honestly goes hard after a speech like that. The next day, however, Morty has an idea to free him and Rick once and for all, by starting to overcome his own fears, from eating a spider to being seen as not normal and exposing himself to embarrassing situations. The fears start to make the world around him crumble at the seams, and so Morty takes it upon him to do the most embarrassing feat of all, going up on stage completely naked and not knowing any single line of the play he's in, with this last stunt showing how Morty is slowly dying too. Once Rick notices the world crumbling, he tries to stop Morty at first, but changes his mind once his selfish gain is causing Morty to die too. Rick strips naked and goes on stage with them, as they both perform a rap to close the show out. The fear hole's illusion of the world starts to vanish, with Diane waving goodbye to Rick one last time, as they climb back out of the hole, free from its clutches. Or are they? It turns out that there are a bunch more fears to face, as once they realize another fear, they repeatedly wake up in the hole over and over again, in the perfect kind of repetition the previous episode sorely lacked. This is a great sequence, amping up the fear that there might be no escape for our protagonists, with the occasional funny bit like Rick realizing the bacon costs $8, along with a fantastic music montage of the future being shown, which feels thematic as this is the last episode of my Rick and Morty experience, ending with Morty fearing that he's going to turn into his dad, and they're back in the hole again. This loop ends once Morty realizes his deepest fear, knowing how fungible he is in Rick's eyes, with Rick, or at least a fake version of him, saying that Morty is irreplaceable. Then it dawns on him, Rick never jumped in a hole with him. He is just a manifestation made from the fear hole, as the thank you message emits from Rick, finally ending Morty's nightmare and sending him back home, next to the selfish Rick he knows. In one final emotional bit to close out this episode, Morty tells Rick that he saw Diane while in the hole and urges him not to go in there, as it's not like he would hope. They briefly leave the bathroom, but Rick goes back and looks down, contemplating on jumping in and seeing his lost Diane again. His mind quickly goes back to reality, as to honor him surviving the hole, he puts a photo of Morty on the wall next to the rest of the victims. Fear No More is a godsend, a Rick and Morty episode for the ages. It's not my favorite of the whole show, you'll find out in just a bit, but that doesn't discredit what a journey this was for us and our beloved characters. This finale is going at the top of the season 7 ranking. I loved it. And that was Rick and Morty. Overall, even after its horrendous low points, do I think this is a good show at the end of the day? Yes. Yes, it is. I quite liked it. Before summing up the show as a whole, let's get into what you're all here for. My ranking of all 71 episodes. I'll briefly rank the seasons first. From worst to best, my rankings of each season are Season 6, Season 3, Season 4, Season 7, Season 5, Season 2, and finally at the top, Season 1. I am glad this latest season ended up around the middle, and was a huge step up from 6 overall. There are some really strong episodes here, but I will admit that just under half of it is in this boring gray area where not much of substance happens. Maybe being a tiny bit sick of the show had to do with it, but I ain't Ellis Mark. Now let's move on to the big ranking of every episode of Rick and Morty. As of right now. Season 8 is still on the way and my list might change in the future, but for now, let's dive into the rankings starting with number 71. Bethic Twinstinct, Rick Dependent Spray, Pickle Rick, Vindicators 3, The Return of World Ender, Gotron Jerisis Rick Vangelion, Wet Quad of Mortican Summer, Final Desmithation, The ABCs of Beth, Claw and Hoarder Special Rickdoms Morty, Never Ricking Morty, Full Meta Jack Rick, Solarix, Rick Mirai Jack, Rick, A Mort Well Lived, Air Force Long, Rise of the Numbericons, The Movie, Raising Gazorpazorp, Rixie Business, Mort Ragnarok, How Poopy Got His Poop Back, Pilot, The Ricks Must Be Crazy, Interdimensional Cable 2, Tempting Fate, The Rick Turian Morty Date, Edge of Tomorty Rick Die Rick Pete, The Rick Shank Rick Demption, Rick Mancing the Stone, Autoerotic Assimilation, The Whirly Durly Conspiracy, Star Mort, Rick Turn of the Jedi, Rattlestar Rick Lactica, A Rick and King Mortar's Mort, Rictional Mort Boons Rick Miss Mortcation, Rick and Morty's Thanksploitation Spectacular, Jurixic Mort, Anatomy Park, Childrick of Mort, A Mortican Grick Feedy, The Jarek Trap, The Old Man in the Seat, Me Seeks and Destroy, Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Morty, Look Who's Purging Now, Something Ricket This Way Comes, Rick Fending Your Mort, Primordius, A Rickle in Time, Rick Turtle Friendshine of the Spotless Mort, Morning Night Run, Get Swifty, Forgetting Steric Mortchul, Analyze Piss, Unmore Tricken, Rest and Rick Laxation, Knife Family, That's a Morday, A Rick Convenient Mort, Morty's Mind Blowers, Mort Dinner Rick Andre, Mortyplicity, Lawnmower Dog, M. Night Shyamalan's, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind, The Wedding Squanchers, Fear No Mort, The Rick Lannis Mix-Up, Total Rickall, Rick Potion Number 9, The Vat of Acid episode, Rixty Minutes. Yep, Rixty Minutes is still my favorite. In my opinion, this episode is the perfect blend of Rick and Morty's strengths, balancing both unhinged improv humor and compelling family drama perfectly. Whenever I think of Rick and Morty, this episode will always come first. I adore it to bits. Rick and Morty is a show that I'm glad I discovered. Sure, I agree with the rest of the fanbase that it peaked in the first 2 seasons and each subsequent season isn't as good, but I wouldn't call most of these seasons bad, just inconsistent in quality. One episode you have a really funny classic adventure with an emotional core to it all, and then the next you have Incest, the episode. It's not just episodes, the characters and tone are back and forth as well, especially Morty becoming more cynical and Rick's Sun and OP powers only existing for plot convenience. Every season after 2 is inferior, I will admit that, but the good episodes in each and every season are still there, and they're still fun to watch on their own. The bad or boring episodes, on the other hand, I'd rather forget unless if I catch them on TV one day. This level of inconsistency, I'd argue, is the reason why Rick and Morty is getting more and more forgotten with each passing year, as other pilots and shows on the same network overshadow it entirely. The show is a relic of the 2010s that's somehow still going but is way past its prime. We still have 5 more seasons ordered, but what then? What will happen to the show if not enough people care about it by this point, at least compared to the fans of the highly successful Smiling Friends? If Adult Swim cancels it after all the other seasons are all finished, then I don't really blame them. I'm not saying the show is a rotting zombie corpse of its former self that deserves to die. Season 7 proves the team can still make some really good episodes, especially the finale. I just wish they'd stop half-assing each season, buckle down, and write consistently good stories with these characters again. Maybe do a modern Simpsons and occasionally experiment out of their comfort zone. Rick and Morty's more popular episodes are the experimental ones. So a season where half the episodes are just that could be a goldmine for creativity. Maybe return to Interdimensional Cable and see if the new voices can pull off at least some good improv. Or another fake clip show with a creative framing device. Or, crazy idea, maybe just do more classic Rick and Morty adventures, instead of having the characters complain that they don't do them anymore. I'm just saying, do the best with what you got. You only got 5 seasons and maybe 5 years until Warner Brothers dies, so just do whatever sounds the most creative to you. If not, at least we had some great moments. Rick and Morty is not one of the best animated shows of all time in my opinion, but with its interesting characters, insane plots, great offbeat humor, and beautiful emotion, I had a great time with the show overall. I hope you enjoyed my brief first impressions on the series. Maybe I'll check out season 8 when it comes out and do a separate video on it if this video does well. This show deserves to be remembered for breaking the mold and doing what most other adult animated comedies created around the same time were afraid of, which is actually be funny and entertaining and deep over just being raunchy and gross. I mean, it eventually became the latter in the case of some episodes, but I won't forget the good times I had with it, and how it was a favorite of my brother when it first came out. Thank you, Rick and Morty, for doing so much in the medium of adult animation, and for entertaining me and my family for years and years. Still won't let down the incest though. What the hell was wrong with you there?